to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal. But if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneinc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneinc.com. Tech made personal locally.
Hello?
Sir, this is Officer Peterson. There's been a string of break-ins in the area, and your office, it was hit.
Hit? What do you mean? We were robbed?
Looks like the back door lock was easily pried open, and they moved through the building like they knew exactly what to take. We see wires everywhere. No computers.
What? No computers? I just upgraded everything.
Looks like they moved fast. We only found out because a neighboring business had their alarm go off. Do you have any security cameras?
No, nothing.
Don't wait until it's too late. Goldilocks protects Chicagoland businesses with custom security solutions. From reinforced commercial doors with keyless entry to cameras and 24/7 monitoring that alerts authorities immediately. Schedule a free on-site assessment at GoldilocksInc.com. Again, that's GoldilocksInc.com. Plus, AM 560 listeners get their first 3 months of monitoring free with a new install. Call 708-889-5600. That's 708-889-5600. Goldilocks, Chicago's premier locksmith, doors, and security systems company since 1981.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Mike Gallagher stands up to the bullies.
I think this boils down to recognizing the actual evil that we're facing. It is absolute evil to attack Erica Kirk. There's no gray area here. You want to sit around and attack a grieving widow who just months ago lost her husband. You're rotten to the core. Your soul is gone.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's January 8th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. It's National Joy Germ Day. It's a day that's created to remind everyone that being positive and treating one another with kindness can influence those around us, and they'll pass along the joy germ to others. So laugh, smile, and just be a little bit more kind to everyone you meet today. Also on this date, the first president, George Washington, delivered the nation's first State of the Union address in 1790. African-American men were granted the right to vote in Washington, D.C. in 1867, despite a veto by President Andrew Johnson. If it's your birthday today, you share it with the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, born in 1935. Renowned physicist, the late Stephen Hawking, who authored A Brief History of Time, was born in Oxford, England in 1942. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, born in 1983. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home, Salem News Channel is across America.
The new year means new resolutions, not just for your body, but for your finances as well. Did you know that financial health is directly related to your identity protection? This is why you need LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your subscription money back. Resolve to make your identity, health, and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Visit LifeLock.com and save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code BECK. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
As a local business owner, you get called every week by marketing companies. We get it. We have hundreds of satisfied customers. Here's what a satisfied client recently said.
Open enrollment is going great. We're hitting record numbers. Thank you so much for this report. It really is amazing to see how the marketing is really shaping our enrollment around the city.
Salem Surround. Is your business hard to find online? Meet with a digital marketer today for ideas that will make your business stand out. Visit salemsurround.com.
You know, daily stress is such a big deal. Fact is, the terrible impact of stress is very deadly and shortens our lives. Stress attracts diseases just like blood in the water attracts sharks. And for over 40 years on Chicago radio, we continue to share practical concepts from a natural healthcare perspective to help minimize your need for all those dangerous drugs and risky surgeries. So today, it's our dirt cheap adrenal stress index test. No blood, just spit. Now, most people don't do so well on their first go around signaling adrenal gland distress. And then they follow our stress-busting strategies and pass their second test with flying colors. So if you can spare a little spit, call for your dirt cheap adrenal stress index test, and we will hold that same special low price for your follow-up test. Just call 800-794-1855. You can't get any cheaper than dirt cheap. That's 800-794-1855.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank
bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean. We all know about how bad the situation is in Latin America and the Caribbean right now. Economic decline, political instability and corruption, and high food prices. The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor and their partners who are providing life-saving food relief on the ground. But in order to get food and water to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your gift of just $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For a gift of $300, you can provide food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
When you can no longer handle your own home, Hearthstone Assisted Living at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights is here to help make life easier. Experience upscale living with comprehensive health services. We offer fine dining, engaging activities, available chaplains, weekly worship services, and quality amenities including a bistro, expansive library, and general store. For a limited time, mention WYLL for an additional discount. Call 847-595-5024 or visit LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain showers and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring breezy conditions and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy skies with a high temperature of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Well, the left got what they wanted yesterday in what was formerly known as Minneapolis, didn't they? They have a cause celeb. Some 30-something, ostensibly radicalized woman who decided it was more important to engage in some sort of half-assed vigilantism against ICE than it was to consider the future of her 6-year-old son, put herself in harm's way, and then put ICE officers in harm's way, and that cost her life. But the left doesn't care. The left is celebratory. This is exactly what they want. They want people to sacrifice for the movement. That's what this is. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. What an opportunity for big talk from little men like the Jacob Frys and the Tim Walzes of the world. The virulent anti-American subversives like Ilhan Omar. What an opportunity. Queue up, scramble, not the National Guard, but all of the leftist professional protester infrastructure that we talked about in response to the Maduro operation over the weekend. And boom, on Saturday afternoon, less than 24 hours after Maduro was apprehended and extradited to the United States, you've got CTU out in the street, leading in part the protests in the streets of Chicago, and it's happening in New York and elsewhere. And yesterday, same thing. Immediately, this woman is shot and killed after putting a ICE officer in reasonable threat for his serious bodily harm or death. That's at, was it 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning? And by the afternoon, they're all over, the George Floyd Square area, and there's big protests going on in New York and Chicago. Just recycle what we did over the weekend. The bat signal went out. That's what they want. You think they care a whit about this woman? It's a radicalization. It's the leftist violence we've talked about for a long time. It's ratcheting up. It will not stop. J.D. Vance talked about it in his sit-down with Jesse Waters yesterday after this, offspring of some, rich folk who, I don't know if people weren't minding the store. I don't know how it happened, but, this trans activist, she's going to strike a blow for transism. People pretending to be a sex they're not, going to strike a blow for them by staging an attack on the house of the Vice President of the United States. Real stable, real smart.
Look, left-wing violence is a problem in this country, Jesse. We've said this time and time again. My dear friend Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing radical. The President of the United States was almost killed a year and a half ago. And then again, a few months after that. We have a real crisis where there are far too many left-wing people who don't want to debate, who don't want to disagree, who don't want to try to persuade their fellow citizens. They want to try to kill their fellow citizens, and that's a real problem. You feel?
Yeah, you think? Sort of passive-aggressive death wish to some extent for themselves and certainly for others. Take some with them. Radicalized by all the identitarian nonsense. So I know we will go over people interested in talking about the actual incident, the particulars, and whether or not it was a legitimate self-defense shooting by that ICE officer or not, and it was. We'll get into the details. But the first order is, why was she there in the first place? What do you think you're doing? You're going to stage a one-car blockade of dozens of ICE officers, and that is for what? How long do you think you could sustain that? And where do you think that ends? With them giving up and turning around and returning to D.C., vacating Minneapolis because you and Tim Walz and Jacob Frey says so? What the hell are you thinking? What is wrong with you? And then they come up and they tell you to move. And instead of complying with a law enforcement officer's order, as we talk about almost all the time in these police or law enforcement involved shootings, almost in every case, rather than comply and litigate whatever you want to litigate in our courts of law, that's what they're for, or in the public domain, that's what they're for, have your say. You maybe attempt to flee, maybe attempt to hurt a law enforcement officer. Your intent doesn't matter as much as what that officer reasonably believed. And now you're dead. And your kid, who unfortunately, as I read, lost his father a couple of years ago, now doesn't have a mom either. Real frackin' smart. brought to you by the neo-Marxist party in this country. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Miro on the northwest side.
Thank you. What happened in Minneapolis was a suicide. It was death by leftism. She went after this armed police officer that she knew was armed, not with a slap in the face or a verbal insult, but with a vehicle that weighs over a ton. She knew what the response would be. And this is not the first time this has happened. What comes to my mind is Ferdinand Street about a year or 2 years ago when a guy in a car opens up fire on Chicago Police Department, and in the ensuing return fire, lost his life. So my final point is this: how much longer am I supposed to feel sorry for leftists who commit suicide in front of me and the rest of the world? Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Miro. Text from 630, don't these people have jobs? Who's got the free time at a moment notice to run out to a protest? Well, that's the infrastructure is financed. We talked about it in some detail on Tuesday, I think. There was a good piece by Asra Nomani and Fox Digital laying this out, and the timeline by which you could see just on social media these organizations scrambling their manpower and their resources. I mean, you have billionaires on the left like Naval Singham that are financing this, and Soros, and by the way, governments are financing this. All these NGOs that we've talked about previously, but and that's another illustration of fraud. Since we're also on the topic of fraud, people's attention fixated on fraud for a minute. Mark Oaklawn.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. You know, I think you think about these protesters that are out there, you know, against ICE, and, you know, a lot of them, they're hired guns. You know, they're out there, they're collecting money to be out there protesting. And I think a lot of these women that are out there, a lot of them are on antidepressants. You know, they're not thinking right. And even you know, I think their thought process, they don't even know why they're out there half the time. You know, it's just.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Well, you certainly see the unhinged quality of so many of them. That's pretty evident. Text 2815, left-wing brainwashing is the modern-day kamikaze. Something like that. Nick, Northwest Side.
Yeah, welcome back, by the way. A little late with it, but so nice to hear you again on the airwaves. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad you're back. We've had historical perspective since the 20s and 30s with film showing people, sometimes from higher areas, who represent the left. All they do is attack somebody, you know, that represents a counter view. Not someone who wants to attack them, but just they want to attack you. And now they've gone to the next level, you know, shooting at a president, shooting Charlie Kirk. I tell people, you know, I'm not advocating you can have a gun with you all the time and be ready to start shooting, but maybe you got to be able to defend yourself, and this is what this come to. So again, thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Nick. I mean, not to mention the incidents of ICE-directed violence since the effort got underway to remove people who are in this country illegally with priority to public safety threats, which is always what was said. Lewis, Brenham, Texas.
Good morning, Dan. First of all, my condolences to that young child. I mean, you know, his life has just been turned upside down and something he has no control over. Yes. Something you mentioned yesterday, though, Dan, when you said, you know, what else is left to do kind of to go after certain people. This is kind of related to what I feel is, when are we going to start going after these governors, these mayors who are inciting this violence, who are calling for people to, you know, confront ICE agents and you know, harass them and do these things to them, and even these judges, local judges who are, when these individuals like in Chicago are ramming people, ICE agents, they're just letting them off when they're towing their cars. You know, they're dismissing charges. I mean, you know, I think if if we start going after some of these people and showing them, hey, you need to hold your people responsible, I think this type of stuff will stop, because you have all these mayors and governors who, you can listen to them on the news. They're inciting violence. They're inciting anger, and they're telling people essentially to get in front of these ICE officers, to confront them, and to get physical with them. That's the way I see it every time I hear them.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Lewis. Well, it's case by case, and you have to be very precise with what is being said and whether it rises to the level of criminality. Most of them stop short because they know. Some of them are right up on the line, like Tim Walz yesterday, talking about being at war with the federal government. We'll get to that after the break. But, that judge in Milwaukee that got held accountable and lost her position and is not, and she just will fade into the woodwork. Nobody's going to kick up much dust over the end of her career because she aided and abetted a illegal immigrant's escape from ICE at that Milwaukee courthouse, you remember? She's convicted of a felony. She has to resign from the bench. She's gone. But that's just another person sacrificing themselves on the pyre of leftism. And the movement doesn't care. They know they're going to have to see some people sacrifice themselves, or push them to sacrifice themselves, or do the sacrificing in order to advance their flag. Violence is the means to political ends, is a legitimate means to political ends. That is their view. Not all, but too many. So they will foment this. And they don't foment it by saying, go do this, go commit an act of violence. Most of them are not that stupid, unfortunately. It would make it easier. They'll do it by performative art, like what is formerly known as Minneapolis, now Mogadishu, Minnesota. The mayor there did yesterday with his message to ICE. And that's why we'll start at 5:38. Take more of your calls as well. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
Good morning. It is 40 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Protesters gathered in Little Village yesterday in response to the shooting of a Minneapolis woman by ICE agents. Little Village Community Council President Baltasar Enriquez issued a statement calling on the people of Chicago to, quote, stand together to demand justice, to protect one another, and to insist on a nation where no one is killed for existing, for migrating, or for being brown. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the new city budget may cause city worker layoffs.
We're going to monitor it closely, and in the event that shortfall does exist, then we're going to have to go before City Council again and have another conversation about ways in which we can either mitigate the harm or have to deal with the harsh reality where people will be laid off.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than big box stores. Blindster.com. Chicago.
This week on Capitol Hill is the best way to get informed on everything going on with Congress. Hosted by Tony Perkins and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
What the founders intended and what their advice was to us is that faith would flourish in the public square, that you should certainly go out and talk about these things because they thought it was essential to maintain and keep the republic.
Stay informed and become a regular listener. This week on Capitol Hill, Sundays at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Wealth Health Radio. The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire?
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated.
To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence.
Learn principles of income planning.
There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring.
Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560. The Answer.
Don't get stuck with the cold shower this winter, give CenterGuard Plumbing a call. Get a new 40-gallon water heater installed for just $1,195 for standard installation, or a 50-gallon heater for $1,295 standard installation. A proud new sponsor of AM 560, CenterGuard is offering specials on new water heaters. Old man winter is here. Don't get stuck in the cold. And the same can happen to your water heater. If you're having hot water issues or your water heater's over 8 years old, take advantage of this winter special today. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. They'll even haul away your old one no charge. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM 560 to receive winter special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
Don't miss cutting-edge coverage of daily news from an America First perspective on the Alex Marlow Podcast.
Paychecks are outpacing inflation. And this is actually the fifth straight quarter this has happened. We just had this monster growth under Trump, and it's not going to be touted by anyone other than us. It's going to be on Trump and others to try to point out bright spots in the economy.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring a breeze and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy conditions throughout the day with a high of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives, powered by Breakthrough Ideas, Sunday evening at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here talking about the ICE-involved shooting that resulted in the death of a woman in Minneapolis, and of course the protests that have ensued and will continue for as long as the left believes they have political value. And I suspect this will be a while, certainly as long as Operation Metro Surge, which is the name of the surge of ICE officers in what was formerly known as Minneapolis. The drop shipping of 2,000, that was the number reported, 2,000 ICE agents to deal with the lawlessness in what was formerly known as Minneapolis, just as they have been attempting to deal with that in big cities across America, including Chicago, of course, Operation Midway Blitz. With respect to the shooting itself, I suppose we should tackle that. Text from 773, I don't think she was trying to kill the agent. She was trying to avoid him. The officer was positioned in front of a car. Right. But here's the thing about that. Her intent might have mattered if she would have survived and was prosecuted and the case adjudicated. You know, if you could establish her intent was not to harm, that could have been a mitigating factor. Problem is, if the officer in front of her car had a reasonable fear for serious bodily harm or death, then he has a right to defend himself. And that's the situation she put herself in and she put him in. And therein lies the problem. Even the one of the eyewitnesses you probably saw making the rounds on places like CNN, even though the eyewitness was sympathetic to the woman who was killed, clearly sympathetic to the political position of wanting ICE to go away, she still offered these observations that undermine what you're hearing from these disgraceful political hacks like Walz and Fry and Jeffries and Omar and even our own BLM Brandon, who, of course, had to weigh in on this. People were waiting with bated breath for BLM Brandon's pronouncements on what happened in Minneapolis, I'm sure. Here's Emily Heller, the eyewitness.
There was an ICE convoy that seemed to be stuck, and then there was a protester who was blocking traffic so they couldn't progress. And she was totally peaceful, and ICE, it seemed completely unorganized. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were screaming at her to move, move, move. And then they approached her vehicle aggressively and tried to open her door. And then that's when she got spooked, and she reversed her vehicle to turn her wheels to try to escape. And that's when an ICE agent stepped in front of her vehicle and said, "Stop." And then, she was already moving, and then point blank shot her through her windshield in the face. Yeah.
Well, this is why eyewitness testimony is generally unreliable, particularly if there are political overtones, because you get all kinds of political commentary from the eyewitness, like you just heard there. However, key points. She was doing some one-woman blockade of ICE. That's not peaceful, by the way. If you are breaking the law, that is not peaceful. That is not the Martin Luther Kingian civil disobedience that is so often invoked and rarely followed by today's leftists. So spare me. Secondly, the other point she made, shot her through the windshield, and that's where, if you watch the video from the proper angle, you see the bullet hole in the windshield. So it wasn't the officer that came up to her driver's side door. It was an officer who came around from the passenger side and was in front of the vehicle, and she moved forward at him, and that's when he shot directly in. And the eyewitness confirms that. Shot through the windshield. Right, because he was in front of a vehicle that was moving at him. Now, all of this, well, this is what she was attempting to do, and this is what she meant, and she was trying to... That's interesting. And irrelevant. Irrelevant for the purposes of whether or not that officer had a reasonable fear for serious bodily harm or death. And put yourself in his situation. You have somebody who is an obstructionist, who is using her vehicle to protest ICE in an aggressive fashion, is not complying with ICE officers, which is you're seeing ICE officers come to her driver's side as you're coming around the passenger side. You're seeing her start to move the car, and then she turns it into you and at you as she is attempting to speed up because she is either going to flee around you or through you. You don't know, but you have to make a split-second decision. So I'm sorry those were the choices that she made. But terrible choices produce terrible consequences. And that's what Christine Ohm had to say about it.
The facts of the matter is he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today. You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons. This domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety.
Well, maybe not on the domestic terrorism issue. I mean, that's case specific, fact specific. I mean, you have these individuals that are radicalized by watching, Gloria Vanderbilt's kid on CNN or Jake Tapper or somebody and take it upon themselves to mimic what they see on TV happening in other cities. Because they're going to send a message to ICE. They're going to give ICE the what for. You've seen it. You saw it outside of the ICE facility in Bridgeview here for weeks. So maybe I'm sure there's an organized component to it, including the training piece. but, that's a case-by-case issue. The larger point she made about using your vehicles as a weapon and pretending like, oh, I'm just some sort of peaceful protester, the hell you are. George in Elk Grove Village.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to say that I was waiting for a reporter to ask the mayor or his idiot appointee chief what would really happen if someone tried to run you down with a car.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, George. Yeah, that's Mogadishu, Minnesota Police Chief Brian O'Hara is a disgrace to the uniform. That's the guy we brought you the clip before the new year, who comparing Somali fraudsters to Mary and Joseph making their way to Bethlehem. I mean, he's a politician in a uniform. It's pathetic. Another pathetic little man who genuflects before these fraudsters. I mean, he hasn't gone so far as to, have the native dishes for a TikTok video like Jacob Fry or learn Somali, as far as I can tell. But he's certainly seems to be perpetually on an apology tour. If there's anything any Somali in Minnesota doesn't like about police operations, then I categorically apologize. And this was Jacob Fry's message, as we've been telegraphing, as I'm sure you've heard, to ICE. Pajamas boy Jacob Fry with the tough talk.
There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
And then when he went on CNN to make sure that he milked the moment for as much political capital as he can with his Somali fraudster friends and these daffy Rothels in Minneapolis, in and around Minneapolis, this is what he had to say about his potty mouth.
I've seen a lot of Republicans here in Washington criticizing those comments, saying that you're escalating tensions with that. Can you respond to them, and what do you say to them tonight, people who criticize those comments?
I'm so sorry if I offended their Disney princess ears, but here's the thing. If we're talking about what's inflammatory, on the one hand, you got someone who dropped an F-bomb, and on the other hand, you got someone who killed somebody else. F-bomb, killing somebody. I think the more inflammatory action is killing somebody. And so, once again, let's be real and just honest and straight up about what...
Yeah, he's being real. And by the way, he had Brian O'Hara, the police chief, sitting next to him like a ventriloquist dummy while he was offering more of that tough talk to Klingon Collins. So impressive. Jason, Melrose Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for taking my call. So I'm going to tell you why this woman's dead. This woman is dead because she didn't follow a lawful command.
Yeah. Are you police?
I am not. No, I'm a dual driver. But I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she didn't follow a lawful command. I'll tell you what, I watch these body videos, on YouTube and stuff. These people get pulled over for a headlight, and they refuse, I'm a sovereign citizen. I don't have to follow your laws. I don't have to give you ID, all that kind of stuff. Give the ID, and you don't wind up dead. When I was a kid, my dad told me one thing when I got my license. Do what the police officer tells you to do, and if you don't, whatever happens, happens. We don't ever talk about that part, though.
No, right. Thanks for the call, Jason. Right. I mean, not following an unlawful command is not a death sentence. Not following, a lawful command is not a death sentence. It is something that will get you arrested. But if in the course of not following a lawful command, you put the life of a police officer in danger, well then, Mike in Union.
Morning, Dan. Past
questions you've had with ICE here, Broadview, is how they go about their business. Did they target, recon, and investigate who they're going after? One thing lost in all this is, who are they going after? I'm sure it wasn't a model citizen. So this woman may have died for somebody who was a total scumbag. Two,
yes,
the woman's phone. Who alerted this woman that this was going on? ICE doesn't advertise where they're going, so it was an organized event that this woman left a little 6-year-old behind, which is sad in all of this, Dan. So I don't know. Maybe you could find out who the scumbag was they were going after. I'm sure it wasn't just a border crosser. I'm sure there was some criminality to it, and that's where ICE needs to step up and say, this happened because this rapist or this scumbag gang member was picked up. So that's what's lost in all this, Dan. I'm sure there's a good explanation. Thanks, brother.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Yeah, Christy Noem addressed that too. It's not just one person, but in terms of like it being organized, well, I mean, there's these messages. The social media obviously is an organizing tool. There's actual, as I said, underwritten infrastructure, and then there's these, mobs of whistleblowers running around all over the place and communicating. And if you see an ICE convoy, I mean, if you take it upon herself, these people are circling around them, following them, and trying to impede their operations. We've seen this in Chicago. We've seen this all over the country, anywhere they are. The whistles and the obstructionists and the gathering anytime they're trying to execute an apprehension, and the screaming and the yesterday we saw what was throwing snowballs. I think that was also at Minneapolis police cars too. Temper tantrum, the politics of temper tantrums, and worse. And sometimes when you lose control of yourself with your temper tantrum politics and you put somebody else in harm's way who has a responsibility to enforce the law and the constitutional right to protect himself, then you get killed. Christy Noem on Operation Metro Surge, to Mike's question.
Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Frye's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Frye refuse to protect Minnesotans, and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we are here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country, and because we're no longer going to allow illegal criminals to damage and harm, to kill, to sexually abuse, to proliferate drugs, and to steal American taxpayers' dollars. This state has faced unprecedented immigration fraud. It's seen unprecedented benefit fraud. Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs. This city has burned before, and your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city.
Yeah, but the left doesn't care about that. The left doesn't care who's victimized, even some of their own people. They have a bigger play here, political power. So they don't want to hear from angel moms and dads. Just like J.B. Pritzker doesn't want to hear from, say, Joe Abraham in this state. You don't want to hear from him. Whatever. Things happen. We have a revolution we're trying to instigate, don't you know? We can't be worried about every kid who is sexually trafficked or every young person who is raped and murdered by a TDA or MS-13 thug that Biden and Pritzker or Biden and Walz welcomed into this country. We don't have time for that. That's what I go back to all the time. The biggest lie that the left tells is that they are their brother's keeper. Nothing could be further from the truth. Tony, Downers Grove.
You know, I listened to the whole. I was at home. I watched the speech by Frey and Walz. Nothing less than despicable, abhorrent, disgusting. And they are responsible for inciting this, and they're calling for more. And as they're doing it, they're saying we have to be peaceful. Two things in the press conferences. Frey, after he admonished ICE, the police chief, when asked a question, said, well, I can't confirm this is what happened. After Frey admonished ICE, Walz complained about not being notified by ICE. Well, you are a sanctuary city. You told them not to comply with ICE. In addition, they said that they have a 24/7 person on a hotline for 911 because they get calls, so many calls. So how didn't they know ICE was there at the time? You mean nobody called when this started to happen? Because this was brewing for at least a couple hours before this incident happened. And, I didn't think there would be a civil war in our streets, but I'm telling you, these people are calling for it, and they may just get it, because he's talking about Walz is, what's his message about the National Guard being ready? He's going to go to battle with ICE?
We're at war with the federal government. That's what he said.
This is serious. This is not a joke anymore. This is serious.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Appreciate it. That's what he said.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission. There's to Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this: please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team.
Yeah.
And from here
on. So he wants a moment, like we talked about in Chicago, when you heard similar rhetoric from Jelly Belly. Is that what you think you're going to do? You're going to arrest ICE agents? You want a moment where local police or the National Guard are confronting ICE because you think you're at war with the federal government? What are you talking about? From the Amish texter. Remember when Martin Luther King tried to run down federal agents in the course of conducting their lawful duties with his vehicle? Right. Yeah, no, I don't remember that. Right, because it didn't happen, which distinguishes actual civil disobedience from the thuggery that these neo-Marxist anarchists are perpetuating on the streets of what was formerly Minneapolis and everywhere else they visit. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one?
At Catholic cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteryChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Was it self-defense? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Depends who you ask about this.
No! No! Shame! Shame!
That's from the video of the shooting death of a woman who's a citizen, shot by immigration agents during a protest against an operation in Minneapolis.
He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says it's a case of domestic terror. The woman shot and killed Renee Good was obstructing agents, she says.
She refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over.
But there are different angles and different videos and different viewpoints about the self-defense argument.
Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bull.
So Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry is telling ICE to get the bleep out of his city. And the anti-immigration enforcement protests continued into the night.
And critics here and people who live in Minneapolis are saying that they didn't really know if that was such a good response from the mayor of the city when so much happened here during the George Floyd riots and in 2020 when the city, parts of it literally burned down. Also, the governor, who we know is at the center of a massive fraud scandal here that we've been covering, did talk about this. He says they've had enough of what he didn't say was really much federal help.
That's Fox's Alexis McAdams in Minneapolis. Police in Salt Lake City, Utah, trying to find one or more gunmen after shooting last night outside a Mormon church.
The gunman opened fire in the parking lot while people gathered at the church for a funeral service. At least 2 people are dead and 6 others injured. Of the 6 injured, 3 were listed in critical condition.
Fox's Chanley Painter. Following the briefing on the U.S. operation in Venezuela for all members of Congress, that many Democrats are critical of it, Vice President Vance tells Fox.
This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood.
And if the U.S. does not control the Western Hemisphere, the Vice President says bad guys will take advantage of it. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 40 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has frozen access to about $10 billion in federal child care and family assistance funds for Illinois, Minnesota, and 3 other states due to concerns about fraud and misuse of taxpayer dollars. Governor J.B. Pritzker blasted the move, saying President Trump is stripping child care from Illinois families who are just trying to go to work. Republican gubernatorial candidate Ted Dabrowski called for a forensic audit, saying state appropriations of state and federal child care services funding increased almost 300% since Pritzker became governor. A new curfew ordinance has been approved by the Chicago City Council Safety Committee. That new ordinance allows for specific time and site curfews to thwart teen takeovers like the deadly one which occurred late in November. If passed by the City Council, that ordinance will require approval from the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and require 12 hours advance notice for issuing a curfew. And the Office of the Inspector General has released its annual report. Some of the more notable items in that report include more than 24 allegations of sexual misconduct, a network chief who defrauded the district of nearly $90,000, a program manager who falsified federal grant applications, ultimately requiring that Chicago Public Schools pay back more than $1 million to the federal government, and principals who defrauded pandemic relief programs. The entire report can be accessed at igchicago.gov. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Gallagher sees it get political very quickly.
We've got a mile worth of receipts of Democrats
demanding that Trump do what he did. Chuck Schumer rips Donald Trump for ending the Maduro regime after he previously ripped him for not ending the Maduro regime. You can't make this crap up.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98. My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for $39.98. Blankets, comforters, and duvets for as low as $25, and a blowout sale on the standard MyPillows for just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including the standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.99. Kings only $1 more. 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. We know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they are extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Promo code LIBERTY.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. You're off to a great start on the Eden, just 14 minutes both ways from Lee Cook to Montrose. No slowdowns to tell you about on the Kennedy, inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange, 17 minutes. Outbound is 20. It's 26 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 28. Inbound Stevenson looks great. From the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 16 minutes. Outbound is 15. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 13 minutes. Outbound is 11. A little bit sluggish on the Dan Ryan Express inbound as you make your way towards the Stevenson, and you are slow on the Bishop Ford inbound between 103rd Street and the Dan Ryan. Northbound Lakeshore Drive, a slight tap on the brakes as you head towards Hollywood Avenue. This report is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring a breeze and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy conditions throughout the day with a high of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So while chaos was enveloping what was formerly known as Minneapolis and big cities around the country after that ICE-involved shooting that we spent the first hour discussing, back in D.C., there was a House Oversight Committee hearing on benefits fraud. That seems like a timely thing to have, particularly with the general ennui being offered by politicians in big blue cities, in big blue states, when it comes to interdicting said theft of taxpayer funds. And it's particularly the case, the relevance of it, given that you're talking about taxpayer money from around the country when you're talking about Medicaid fraud, which, as you'll hear in a moment, part of Jim Comer's kickoff of the House Oversight Committee hearing. 35% of Minnesota state budget comes from American taxpayers. So we're talking about real money, both from Minnesota and from the other 49 states, the citizens of the other 49 states. But before we get to that, do have to close the loop on the histrionics from the Wallses and the Fries and the Brotherly Love Spices yesterday. Because Trump weighed in, and we haven't gotten to that yet. Trump weighed in, basically saying something similar to what Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem had to say that we discussed last hour. But Jake Tapper, the smug Jake Tapper, had Omar on. And, of course, anytime you have somebody like Omar or Tlaib, any of the Socialist Spice Girls, including the honorary ones, Kasten, Swalwell, Chris Murphy, no matter what they say, goes completely unchallenged. No matter how obviously wrong, how grossly ignorant, goes completely unchallenged. And so here it is, Tapper first reading a portion of Trump's post on Truth Social about the ICE-involved shooting, and Brotherly Love Spice responding.
President Trump went on Truth Social, and he posted about the video, and he posted a different video than the one I think a lot of us have seen. He said, "It's a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense." What's your response to that?
Well, that's an incredibly delusional statement. We've all seen the video. We've seen it on multiple angles. You can see no ICE agent falls to the ground. No one is run over. So to rewrite something that is still so visibly available everywhere that people can see just shows how disturbingly delusional our president has become. But the people have their own eyes. They can make their own judgment. And certainly when this investigation is over, we are going to know really what has taken place. And I hope that leads to accountability.
Yeah, we already know, actually. She went on, when the investigation is complete, we're going to know. Well, she's already drawn her conclusion, as you would expect. Well, I've drawn mine, too, based on what I saw, and offered an explanation. She offers an explanation that doesn't account for things like she was shot from the front of the car as the car moved towards the officer. Did he have a reasonable fear for his of serious bodily, a reasonable fear of serious bodily harm or death. That was not asked by Jake Tapper because, as I said at the outset, statements from the most ignorant and incendiary leftists in the Western world go unchallenged by Jake Tapper and Klingon Collins and the rest of the gang at CNN and MS Now and the networks. So that's how that plays out. But she went on. Not only was it a bad shoot, this is part of a larger program from the Trump administration of state-sanctioned murder. Another responsible comment.
Yeah, I mean, ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence in our communities. We have seen them terrorize so many of citizens in the 5th District and across Minnesota. And that has tragically led to this murder that we all watched on TV. And so it is not helpful for us to have ICE agents unlawfully just carrying out these ridiculous raids that are not resulting in any sort of arrests, that have no explanation of why they are there. They are disturbing peaceful communities that are just trying to live out their lives. And I join our mayor and our senator in asking them to get the heck out of our city.
Mm-hmm. It's nice of her not to use the F word on CNN. Leave that for the panelists and Mayor Fry. You could go to DHS website and they have, probably not everyone, but they have a lot of people that they've arrested from state to state, city to city. And they have profiles on those people. Their criminal history, their history as a person in this country illegally. But it's all huddled masses yearning to breathe free, who've done nothing wrong. That's the story. And the reason I bring up Omar's comments and comments by people like her again and again is because all of this overheated rhetoric is designed to make you apologize. Well, I'm sorry that happened, and, I don't want to, it's designed to put you on defense. And what you need to do is, where you have influence with your friends and family, colleagues and co-volunteers and all that I always say, is come over the top. Oh, really? She doesn't know what she's talking about, purposely. If you're repeating her, you don't know what you're talking about. And here's some resources if you were the independent-minded, intellectually curious person you pretend to be, Joe or Sally or whoever. Over the top. What is a woman with a 6-year-old at home doing, taking on immigrations and customs enforcement on the streets of Minneapolis? What in God's name do you think you're doing? What kind of sense does that make? And not only do you try to have your Tiananmen Square moment, then you put an officer's life at risk? And I'm supposed to say, gosh, Jay, I can understand why people are so upset. No, you should understand why I'm so upset. I don't want to see that woman die. Nobody does. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Those trying to score cheap political points and put you on defense, put the sensible person who plays by the rule in this country on defense, I'm not so sure about their motivations. In fact, I'm actually quite sure about it. I mentioned earlier in the hour. They need cause celebs. They need mascots. They don't care who goes down. The judge in Milwaukee who loses her career over just a catastrophically terrible decision, an officer of the court, no less, or this woman who made a similarly catastrophic decision, actually a series of them, which is usually how you wind up dead. It's not usually not one thing. I learned this in flight school. You're usually not one thing. It's you make one bad decision, you compound it with another one. And that's exactly what happened in the streets of what was formerly Minneapolis yesterday. She made a couple of bad decisions, compounding, dead. And yet here we go. Hakeem Jeffries back at the Capitol.
There's no evidence that has been presented to justify the shooting of an unarmed woman in Minneapolis. The so-called Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, has zero credibility. She's a stone-cold liar. We've got to make sure that the rogue ICE agent who pulled the trigger, resulting in the death of an American citizen, is criminally investigated to the full extent of the law.
They hope they can put you on your heels. And the way this boomerangs on them is for you to come over the top and unequivocally deliver the unvarnished truth. To be honest about what happened is not to lack compassion. I don't know why that is confusing to so many commonsensical people on the center right. But when you are beset by that confusion, you aid and abet the Ilhan Omars and the Jacob Frys and the Tim Walzes and the J.B. Pritzkers and the Brandon Johnsons of the world. Now, speaking of which, BLM Brandon, the nation was waiting for him to weigh in on this, of course.
Good evening, Chicago. I would like to take a moment to address the tragic loss of life today in Minneapolis. The video that many of us have seen of ICE officers fatally shooting a woman at point-blank range is deeply disturbing and, unfortunately, all too similar to incidents that have transpired here in Chicago. No community deserves to be subjected to the terror that's stemming from this president's use of ICE as his personal militarized force. At the start of their operation in Chicago, an ICE agent killed a father, Saverio Villegas Gonzalez, under very similar conditions in his car right after dropping his children off at school. And just as they tried to do today in Minnesota, the Trump administration lied about what happened and spewed misinformation in an attempt to distort the public's understanding. There was no accountability for that killing, nor was there any accountability when another legal observer in Chicago was shot 5 times. It is incidents like these that demonstrate why we have pushed back against reckless and racist militarized immigration enforcement in Chicago.
You get it. It's his opportunity to try to score the same political points in communities like Little Village that are out in force yesterday in response to what happened in Minneapolis, just like Jacob Fry is doing for the Somali and other immigrant communities, the radicalized elements, at least, in Minneapolis, formerly in Minneapolis. Oh, and by the way, just an example that someone like Jake Tapper could have brought up if he was interested in an informed discussion on the topic. Of course, he's not. That's not his job. His job is to flack for the Ilhan Omars of the world. I don't know why. It's something else that continues to baffle me. Yeah, I know Stephen Miller had that exchange with Tapper the other day about Venezuela. Why even bother? The only point of going on the show like Tapper's or Stephanopoulos is to just, regardless of what they say, is just to repeat, look to the camera, not even to them. I'm here to remind you that Jake Tapper's job is to flack for Ilhan Omar, is to flack for AOC, is to flack for the neo-Marxist parties, the hegemons of the neo-Marxist party, power structure. And that's do the same thing on Stephanopoulos, do the same thing with Margaret Brennan, do the same thing with Kristen Welker. These are not serious people. Why do you give them legitimacy? On December 21st, ICE officers positively identified Juan Carlos Rodriguez Romero, an illegal alien from Cuba, as he got into a white SUV near Westminster Street in St. Paul, Minnesota. When ICE enforcement officers conducted a lawful vehicle stop, officers approached and identified themselves as ICE. Romero was non-compliant, refused to roll down his window, causing officers to warn they would have to break the window if he continued not to comply. In response, he drove off, striking one of the officers in his attempt to escape. Oh, using a vehicle as a weapon. Here we go again. ICE officers gave chase. After a brief pursuit, Romero pulled into a parking lot near his residence and struck 2 parked vehicles. Officers again stopped Romero's vehicle, commanded him to exit. He began ramming his car into an ICE vehicle and struck another ICE officer. The officer who was struck by Romero's car defensively fired 2 rounds from his service weapon, causing Romero to drive off again. No one was struck by any of the defensive shots fired. Romero then drove to the front door of his apartment complex, rammed another ICE vehicle. What are we up to? I lost count. 5? Then got out of his car and attempted to flee to his apartment. Officers pursued and brought Romero to the ground, who continued to violently resist arrest and bit one of the officers. They eventually subdued him, placed him in handcuffs. 2 officers sustained non-life-threatening injuries, taken to the hospital for evaluation. Romero was also taken to the hospital for evaluation. He is currently in ICE custody pending further charges. Admitted to the U.S. in 24 by the Biden administration through the CBP One app, which released more than 1 million completely unvetted illegal aliens into the interior of the United States. That's why we're here, Representative Omar, Mayor Fry, Governor Walz. That's why we're in what was formerly Minneapolis. Why doesn't everybody know about this case? Oh, because it didn't involve death, number one. There's not video of it, although there are a lot of pictures that were posted by DHS. Nobody wants to use Romero as a cause celeb. Doesn't really fit the bill as a cause celeb. And by the way, this is not to say, just in anticipation of the bedwetting left's straw man arguments, nobody is saying and has ever said, certainly not me, and I haven't heard anybody on the left, on the right, say, oh, ICE officers are above the law. They're 007s. Hardly. We had an ICE officer in Chicago, I recall, that got busted for a DUI in Oak Brook. Well, if you're an ICE officer, you don't get to drive drunk. Yeah, so he has to face charges for driving under the influence. They're not above the law. Police officers aren't above the law generally, local, state, federal. Nobody's saying that. The suggestion is the left's misdirection because they believe whoever they designate is above the law is in fact above the law. Like people in this country illegally who they want to make dependents of the state and federal plantations get them on the rolls, as Dr. Oz mentioned on Laura Ingram's show the other day that we discussed yesterday. Get them on the voter rolls, in addition to the welfare rolls. Welfare rolls get you your voter, to get them on the voter rolls, and then we have that constituency to backfill all the people fleeing these failed fraudulent states like New York and Minnesota and Illinois and California. They're not terribly sophisticated thinkers, the left. It's pretty straightforward what they're doing. And all you have to do is watch. Grant in Rockford.
Good morning, Dan. I don't remember the left showing all this outrage when Ashley Babbitt was shot, and I don't think that was a good
insurrectionist. She's an insurrectionist.
Yeah, but in the very least, she was unarmed and not driving a 4,000-pound weapon at an officer. So, they're apples and oranges, but you can't, what do they say? You can't eat your cake and have it too.
Thanks for the call. Joe in Naperville.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, just your opinion. Obviously, this guy isn't going to be charged with any federal crimes, but could Minnesota charge him with a state crime and prosecute this agent? And also, I pray to God this agent has a Rittenhouse and a Sandman moment where he goes out and he can sue all these people for libel once he's cleared.
Thanks for the call, Joe. A text from 219, Homan is Nostradamus. He said this tragedy was going to, he said this tragedy was going to happen when Dem leadership encouraged resistance and law enforcement would not release those in custody at jails. Yeah, no, that's right. Talked about it intermittently for going back to Trump's first term. Going back to the establishment of these sanctuary cities and the antagonism of politicians at the state and local level in places like Illinois towards federal law enforcement. In addition to their promotion of violence as the legitimate means to political ends all the time. And it doesn't matter how many assassination attempts are made on against Trump, against a former president and president of the United States, or Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh. political figures on the right like Charlie Kirk. Doesn't matter to them. They will not stop unless they're stopped. And I mean that electorally. They will not stop until there is categorical rejection of those who, whether they express it or not, act in furtherance of the idea that political violence is a legitimate means to political ends. The only thing that will chasten them is being drummed out of power. Jordan in Antioch.
Good morning. Hold on. Morning, Dan. Yeah, like I told Springer. So by their admission with this case and Brandon Johnson, it is perfectly within my right that when I am stopped by a pro-Palestine protest, by LGBT, by any of these leftist whack jobs who feel it's okay to stop traffic and keep me from being where I need to be, jumping on cars of a woman with kids in her car, trying to keep a husband and wife from going to dinner and wrecking and beating up their car. It is perfectly acceptable for me to drop that sumbitch in low and go to town, right? Because I can do that because unlike them who are refusing a lawful order to stop the vehicle and be detained for questioning, these people have no lawful right to stop me. That's the Mann Act. You can't hold me against my will. So by their own admission, and I'd really love to hear somebody ask one of these whack job a-holes like Omar and all these other people, or Fry, or BLM Brandon, or Pritzker. So what you're saying is it's okay then for me to use my vehicle to get out of a point of stress when your protesters or ICE are stopping me against my will. Is that okay? I'd really love to hear their opinion because they love to stand up for these illegals or these protesters who are using their cars and violence to get their point across. But it's not, I know damn well that if I were in a protest and somebody were jumping on my car and I had my wife and my kid in the car and I decided to put it in 4 low and head out, whoever I ran over, I'm going to jail. No questions asked. And I will not get a talking head to stand at the bully pulpit and defend my actions like they do for these other people. I'd really love to hear that because by their own admission, they just said it's okay for you to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, coming up at 6:36, we will now get to that House Oversight Committee hearing on welfare fraud that I teased. It will happen at 6:36. Stay tuned. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 42 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The husband of a missing special ed teacher says her car has been found. Antoine Brown says the blue Honda Civic belonging to Linda Brown has been found and towed by Chicago police. He says that car was found in good condition but is not saying where it was discovered. And while Brown says that's the good news, his wife Linda is still missing. 53-year-old Linda Brown was last seen on Saturday in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood. Anyone with information on her whereabouts is asked to call 911. The National Hockey League has announced that famed Chicago Blackhawks goaltender Glenn Hall passed away. Hall began his tenure with the Blackhawks prior to the 1957-1958 season. He started in 502 consecutive games for the Red Wings and Blackhawks. He won the 1961 Stanley Cup Championship with the Blackhawks. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1975. Glenn Hall was 94 years old. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Alex Marlow explains his mission.
We're not going to play games here. We're not just going to court clicks. We're not just going to court shares. I'm going to give you the news. The news is what you're going to get in the show and a deep analysis from great guests. What I'm trying to do here is try to save the country as best I can for my 4 children. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because I believe in America.
The Alex Marlow Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at noon on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
What's the secret to your success?
Clean living, hard work, and no employees.
You lost me on that last one.
No employees?
Yeah.
That's the secret sizzle that makes Hassleus Mattress so popular.
How are you successful without employees?
You can give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Nobody talking down to me or breathing down my neck?
And with no commission-crazed salespeople in the mix, our everyday mattress prices on Beautyrest, Sealy Posturepedic, and more are way low.
How low?
Our Queen Beautyrest Elm Cove A is just $7.94.
Wow.
Plus, free next day delivery. And through Monday, get a free box spring or $300 off an adjustable base with the purchase of any Queen or King size Beautyrest or Sealy Posturepedic mattress.
Since you're a mattress store, you could say Hassleus is an overnight success.
Good one.
Thanks.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at hassleus.com.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-654-1555 or visit accessoneinc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneinc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain doesn't just hurt your body, it cripples your life. I know this because I've seen it with people I care about. If joint pain is holding you back, start the new year by doing something different. There's a way to get real relief without surgery and without putting your life on pause. But you have to take that first step and contact my friends at QC Kinetics. They provide regenerative treatments that help your body repair the areas that are causing pain. I've talked to people who've been through this. These are real results. Achy knees, hips, shoulders, wherever it hurts, instead of facing surgery that sidelines you for months, QC Kinetics treatments happen in the office. Simple procedures that deliver big, life-changing results. January is supposed to be your clean slate month, so make it one. Stop managing the pain and start solving it. Call now to learn more and tell them Dan Proft, that's me, sent you when you do. The number 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics to start the year right. 312-827-6261.
Start the new year off on a healthier note by taking active liver supplements from New Nordic every day. Available online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com or at your local CVS, ShopRite, Meijer Grocery, or Wegmans.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. What a big mess on the inbound Eisenhower. You are jammed from the Tri-State to Mannheim Road with police activity, taking down 2 right lanes. It is 40 minutes from the Jane Addams to the old post office. Now outbound is 32, but this is backing things up all the way to the Reagan Memorial. Eastbound, you've got delays as you head towards the Tri-State. The Tri-State is just stop and go northbound between the Reagan Memorial and the Eisenhower, and now southbound on the Tri-State just before I-80. Watch out for a collision. 17 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 15. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 16 minutes. Outbound is 11. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than big box stores. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain showers and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring breezy conditions and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy skies with a high temperature of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The hits keep coming when it comes to new and exciting ways to defraud state and local government, including state and local government that is funded in part by the feds. New and exciting ways, and what's the interest level of the politicians in places like Minnesota and Washington State and Illinois, New York, California, Maine? De minimis. Listen to this report from not from Nick Shirley, leftists, from the NBC affiliate in what was formerly known as Minneapolis, KARE 11, detailing the frauding of state grant programs per, not Nick Shirley, per the Legislative Audit Bureau at the state level in Minnesota. DHS fraudsters. They're outside the government, taking advantage of DHS programs through the willful blindness of those with oversight responsibility, and through the sidelining of honest state employees trying to bring attention to this fraud by those with additional oversight responsibility who are in elective office. See if anything comes of that. And then they're inside the government, too. Of course. You created a kleptocracy. Cheat the government before it cheats me. And so they do.
Frankly, unacceptable.
Another sobering report by the Office of the Legislative Auditor, this one concerning the Behavioral Health Administration within the Department of Human Services, which issues grants to providers treating mental health and drug and alcohol addiction, hundreds of millions of dollars each year. The audit found them issuing grants to applicants without a bidding process.
So what we saw is that there was multiple entities that could have been eligible, and they chose not to provide a justification for why they were picking those.
This report is quite stunning.
One outrageous example, the auditors found a grantee that was paid $672,000 for 1 month of work without any info on what they do. And the audit says the grant manager who paid it then left DHS a couple days later and became a paid consultant for that company.
To me, that's criminal.
Auditor Judy Randall says she was most shocked that during the audit, multiple DHS managers backdated or created new documents to try to cover their tracks.
Frankly, in the 27 plus years I've been with OLA, I have never seen this before. I will say we have had suspicions periodically, but we have never been able to prove it, to document it, and we did in this case. And it's very troubling.
Temporary DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi's response.
I was shocked to hear this information in the exit conference, and it is absolutely unacceptable that any staff would provide anything other than accurate representation of the work done to an auditor.
You know what they sound like? They sound like the Doge Boys. I sure hope Minnesota state government hasn't been infiltrated by MAGA. They sound like reasonable people, don't they? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously most state employees, Minnesota, Illinois, wherever, honest people. But they're operating in a kleptocracy that's perpetuated by the people in charge. And so some will fall prey to that. $700,000 for a month's worth of who knows what work, and then the individual that had the granting authority flips and becomes a consultant for the company. Yeah, that sounds criminal. Yeah, it sure does. And not particularly artful either. But that evaded the attention of the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Imagine. So add mental health and addiction programs to assisted living facilities and medical transport companies and home health care and daycare. And you wonder why, gosh, what is going on in Illinois, as Ted Dabrowski asked, as we talked about yesterday, when you have these human services spend, the human services spend in Illinois, going up 8 times faster than a budget that's gone up 40% in real dollars since Pritzker took office, state budget. 8x. And particularly in Illinois, we had a hemorrhaging population. But how dare you say fraud? You have to prove it, even as they rush to make sure you can't prove it, except circumstantially, through noncompliance with FOIAs and what these, at least they had some honest auditors in Minnesota, found with, manufacturing records, backdating, manipulating to try to cover their tracks. And additionally, by the way, the responsibility of government is to proactively give the public access to how their money is being spent. Part of the fraud is making it impossible to, or near impossible, to discern what is actually happening through noncompliance or specific non-performance, even if you give the appearance of compliance with FOIA requests and responses to inquiries and so forth. You shouldn't have to have a team of investigators ferret this out, because there should be protocols on the front end and oversight on the back end that make sure things are being done on the up and up. But no. And are they interested? Even when you wrap it in a bow and bring it to their attention, we'll find out in Minnesota, but they certainly haven't been for the 2 terms of Tim Walz, because it's been going on the entire time. How about Katie Wilson, the newly minted socialist mayor of Seattle? We just talked yesterday about the site visits that one independent journalist made to all these supposed daycares in Seattle. Nobody home, no kids there, no response to inquiries about information about the child care services or daycare services they provide. Katie Wilson was asked by a local affiliate reporter in Seattle about this. And I have to admit, her response did not lack for succinctness.
I think the fear in the Somali community is real. The fear in immigrant communities are real, so we're taking that very seriously.
Along those lines, have you asked anyone to follow up on the fraud claims, either to the Department of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs or SPD?
No.
No. I haven't, and the subtext is clearly, and I'm not going to, because I don't give a rat's ass. I'm too busy jawboning the fear in the immigrant community line, because I'm a champion for vulnerable populations, particularly the ones here illegally. We brought you these stories last year, these intermittent stories, Doge profiles. I mean, this is part of the fraud. All these NGOs that are not that non-governmental organizations, they are non-governmental organizations funded by government to do political activity and to provide sinecures to favored political operatives that will turn around and work for the reelection of Jelly Belly and Ali G and all of Don Harmon's roll call votes and all of Chris Welch's roll call votes. It's wonderful. Give you an example of what I'm talking about. And by the way, this is in addition to, the Pritzker, and the Tribune and all these Chicago press flacks for Pritzker and Ali G and Harmon and Welch and the supermajorities and so on and so forth. No fraud. I mean, their own reporting, state paid, just less than 3 years ago. State paid at least $5.2 billion. Illinois. The state paid at least $5.2 billion with a B dollars in fraudulent or excessive unemployment claims during the pandemic, according to an audit. How dare you question an 8x increase in human services spend and suggest that what's going on in other states could possibly be going on in Illinois, even though we have a much longer storied track record of graft and grift and existence as a kleptocracy. And this just bubbled to the surface recently. Again, I mean. But this is a couple years ago, too. Illinois Watchdog referred 177 cases of alleged PPP loan fraud by state workers to law enforcement. They say 177 cases. Well, that's out of, what is it, 45,000 state employees, something of that sort. It's a small percentage. Yeah, I know. But as we are talking about and seeing play out in real time and referencing the reporting that's been done on it in different states for varied periods of time, is this one of the scams. Layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Everywhere you turn, you will find it if you look, because let's cheat the government before it cheats us. The Banana Republic culture. How dare you suggest fraud? How dare we have to deign to answer your questions or provide detailed information that explains what money was allocated and to whom it was allocated and for what? How dare you? That's outrageous. You're a MAGA extremist. Uh-huh. Yeah, keep up. What else you got? Fracking people. $700K per year from the state to the Black Researchers Collective. You remember this one? Nonprofit founded in 2020. Got its IRS nonprofit designation in 2022. Total revenue went from $286,000 in 21 all the way up very quickly to $1.16 million in 2023. And since 2023, received $700,000 per year in state taxpayer grants for operating expenses. ED makes $173,000. The deputy makes $140,000 for 20 hours of work per week. Pretty good work if you can get it financed by somebody else. Author and poet Glennons Green and former Chicago Urban League CEO Sherry Runer started Black Research Collective to activate and mobilize communities to use research and data to create and sustain change across Chicago communities and beyond, whatever in God's name that means. I'll tell you what it means. We set up a sinecure so you can pay us, you politicians, so that we'll do your political bidding. Keep us in the fold. And the way you do that is keep us on the payroll. They purport to conduct interviews on the street with Black Chicagoans, which have been compiled into reports that advocate against capitalism and for policies like reparations, the mass release of black violent criminals from state jails, and free housing, health care, and college for Black Chicagoans funded by non-black taxpayers. Well, primarily, because that's primarily who the taxpayers are. Uh-huh. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up an NGO and give you the imprimatur of, sort of social science researchers, give sort of an academic, and you're going to dummy up these studies and surveys to reinforce the positions that we hold. We'll pay you to reinforce the positions that we hold for the purpose of advocating for increased dependency so we all can continue to get paid and stay in power. Is that fraud? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Mark, Northwest Indiana.
Hey, Dan, love the show. I just had an idea or a thought. I would like to hear your thought. Indiana's sitting on a surplus. I'd like to see these states suspend payment to the federal system until they get a full accounting of what's going on, number one. Number two, all government accounting should be on an open source. All government accounting should be on an open source blockchain that we can all see where all of this money is going. Thank you.
Absolutely. Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. United Worker Center, for those of you who aren't the polyglot that I am, clearly. The United Worker Center is a nonprofit promising to, quote, build immigrant and worker power by working to advance systemic change that promotes racial, gender, and economic justice and stabilizes low-income immigrant communities and communities of color. It's a mouthful. They get $4 million in state taxpayer grants. Last year, Pritzker, this is 24. In 24, Pritzker and the Illinois General Assembly approved 7 state grants totaling $4 million for United Workers. Providing immigrant services to people in this country illegally who live in Chicago. They include removal defense, assisting illegals in how to make claims for asylum, and how to exploit a loophole in a federal law that prevents deportation if you're a domestic violence victim. Their website, we provide the tools and we provide the tools and services necessary to fight against deportation as well as offer legal screenings, representation, and bilingual know your rights trainings. Through organizing and empowerment, we work to ensure that our neighbors are aware of the issues affecting their communities by recruiting and training promotores from neighborhoods throughout the southeast side and the south suburbs of Chicago. They advise employers facing an ICE raid to hide illegal aliens in private areas of their businesses. Again, from their social media posts, private areas where the workers are, ICE is not allowed to search. ICE will only be allowed in private areas unless they have the permission of the employer or person in charge and a valid warrant from a federal district judge. Because a valid warrant was provided does not mean agents are allowed to speak, question the other workers without the permission of the employer or person in charge. So don't comply. Take the sanctuary city state posture. And they're also, of course, promote, they say, work in the direction of violence prevention and violence interruption. All of these, gooey phrases, and where sort of no tangible work product is required to maintain the flow of your money to them. Is that fraud? It is. I'll remove the mystery for you. Lee and Hammond.
Yeah, hi. I would contend that this is the Red-Green Alliance. Both the Saul Alinskyite communists and the Quran advocate lying to the infidel, lying to the opposition. So why would they come clean with the facts that these funds are being stolen? It gets them to their end. This is a lot. Keith Ellison took his oath of office on the Quran, and so did Mangami over in New York, as a matter of fact. This is just the way they roll. If you look at how the downfall of Iran back in the 70s, it was the same alliance, red-green, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Thanks for the call, Lee. One other fun one from from Maine. There's also been documented, reported fraud. We played you a News Nation report yesterday. We'll see how interested Janet Mills and Stephen King are in that. This is classic. You think it was wild when we had a police officer in Hanover Park who was an illegal immigrant, illegal in this country for a decade from Montenegro? Hanover Park ain't got nothing on Lewiston, Maine. Lewiston, Maine has just sworn in Aman Osman, a gentleman of Somali extraction, who is currently facing criminal charges.
We're talking about Iman Osman. He's the Lewiston City Councilor-elect. He's being charged with 1 count of receiving stolen property and 1 count of theft by unauthorized taking of a firearm. Now, Lewiston City Mayor Carl Shalin did call on Osman to step down and not take this position, but his attorneys tell us that Osman still plans to serve on the city council. The council will go into executive session to consider the request by the previous council to investigate his qualifications for the job. This is according to the city council agenda. The council will also consider a resolution to retain an independent investigator to prepare a report on facts related to Osman's qualifications. This is also outlined in the city's agenda for tonight. Osman is also under scrutiny about his legal address. It's listed as 210 Blake Street, but that building was condemned back in 2024 due to a drug raid. Now, Osman has not made it public at this current moment where he's living right now.
Oh, details. Going to do an investigation of his qualifications. What are you talking about? A fraudster being elected to the city council that suborns fraud? It sounds perfect. You know, bring the fraudsters, at least some of them, out from the outside, put them on the inside where they can, properly preside over an orderly frauding of the taxpayer in Maine and nationwide. Coming up at 7:07, we'll be joined by former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli to continue this discussion. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Protesters call it murder. The head of Homeland Security calls it self-defense. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. They are angry, demonstrating against ICE last night in Minneapolis after an immigration officer shot and killed a woman in her SUV.
ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says that was domestic terrorism.
Agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands.
Noem says she weaponized her vehicle and the officer opened fire in self-defense. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says that is BS, urging ICE to
get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
The woman who was killed has been identified as Renee Nicole Macklin Good. We know she's 37 years old and recently moved to Minnesota. City and state officials said she was murdered by ICE, calling DHS a propaganda machine, explaining that this woman was just trying to get away and drive away from the scene when she was killed.
Fox's Alexis McAdams in Minneapolis. 2 people are dead in Salt Lake City, Utah. 6 wounded in a shooting last night outside a Mormon church where a memorial service was happening inside. Democrats remain critical of the U.S. operation in Venezuela that captured leader Nicolas Maduro, who's now jailed on narco-terror and drug charges in the U.S. They're pushing a vote today in the Senate on a war powers resolution trying to force President Trump to get authorization for future action in Venezuela. Vice President Vance tells Fox the U.S. has to control the Western Hemisphere.
If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it.
House Republicans could take a stand against President Trump today in votes attempting to override 2 vetoes of legislation that passed with bipartisan support. One funds a clean water project in Colorado. The other deals with Florida Everglades protection. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 42 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A local man is taking the online platform Roblox to federal court, claiming his son was groomed by an online predator. Fox's Jeff Manasso has the story.
A Cook County father is accusing online platform Roblox of creating an unsafe environment that he says allowed a predator to groom and sexually exploit his 9-year-old son. Suit alleges the child encountered a predator posing as a peer who gradually gained his trust and persuaded the boy to send sexually explicit images. The complaint accuses Roblox of prioritizing profits over child safety. Roblox says that it's troubled by the incident, that it's constantly working to further improve safety and platform restrictions to keep children safe online.
The Office of Inspector General for the Chicago Board of Education says it substantiated 26 cases of adult-on-student sexual misconduct at Chicago Public Schools in the agency's report for this past fiscal year. According to the report, 6 of the investigations resulted in criminal charges and 4 already resulted in convictions. The OIG says it found many instances of adult-on-student sexual misconduct across 2 unnamed high schools located on one campus. And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the city's new budget may cause city worker layoffs.
In the event that shortfall does exist, then we're going to have to go before City Council again and have another conversation about ways in which we can either mitigate the harm or have to deal with the harsh reality where people will be laid off.
This report is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections, or take advantage of limited time federal rebates on a new furnace. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder wants facts in the argument.
It just drives me crazy whenever there is a mass shooting and the immediate call for people on the left to demand more gun control. Never, even on Fox, do you hear somebody say, well, let's also consider how often Americans use guns to save lives, themselves or others, or bodily injury. It just seems to me that should be relevant.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband Ryan died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
The vaccines have failed. While the virus continues to mutate and bypass every shot they give you, the establishment is left with no answers. You're being left defenseless against a changing enemy. But the cavalry has arrived. When the system fails, nature and science unite to rescue your immune system. It's time to stop chasing mutations and start blocking them. I'm Dr. Michael Huber, introducing Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. We've combined 23 high-potency natural ingredients into one synergistic strike. We are hitting the virus from every angle. Don't be a victim of ineffective science. Get the 23-ingredient shield that actually works. Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail.
Order your bottle of Virago online today. Visit myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30% at checkout. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Well, good news, the police activity on the Eisenhower at Mannheim Road has cleared from the main roadway, but the outbound entrance ramp from Mannheim Road remains closed. So you're still jammed on the inbound side from the Jane Addams to the old post office. It's 40 minutes, outbound is 39. Stop and go delays northbound on Lakeshore Drive as you head towards Hollywood Avenue. 24 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, outbound is 17. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn interchange is 20, outbound is 12. It's 23 minutes both ways on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn interchange and 15 minutes in both directions on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain showers and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring breezy conditions and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy skies with a high temperature of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. More color on that House Oversight Committee hearing on benefits fraud that we began discussing last hour. Here was Oversight Committee Chairman Jim Comer kicking it off with some general comments.
This isn't just a Minnesota problem. It's a problem for taxpayers across the United States. About 35% of Minnesota's budget comes from federal grants. 35% of Minnesota's budget comes from federal grants. Hardworking Americans pay those taxes, and that money is being funneled to fraudsters, funding luxury homes, fancy cars, and vacations abroad. Some of it is even allegedly going overseas to support terrorists. And yet, Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, and Minnesota Democrats failed to act despite countless warnings. They failed Minnesotans and all Americans, handing millions of taxpayer dollars to fraudsters.
Yeah, and as we're gleaning from some of the responses we're getting from neo-Marxist politicians at the city and state level around the country, where fraud has been exposed in terms just as certain as those in Minnesota, it's going to take federal action. It's going to take turning off the spigot, as the president is moving to do, to achieve some level of compliance. It would seem. We played you the clip from Katie Wilson, the newly minted Marxist mayor of Seattle, who said in response to whether or not she has referred any of these reports of fraud to investigators, no. No. And I'm not going to. And you can't make me. It's something to behold. As was this exchange. Brandon Gill, our friend from Texas, who performs very well in these Q&A sessions, these congressional hearings. One of those testifying before the committee was a former DOJ special counsel named Brendan Ballou. And he was there essentially to defend the status quo in Minnesota. Sort of gave it away in his response to the first question. And then Brandon Gill drilled down with the data.
Mr. Ballou, again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir. Could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about Let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somali.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
Go for
so, again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working-age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again.
Point here is this attempt that Baloo makes to say, well, they're born here, so you can't say Somali households versus native Minnesotan households because we're all immigrants. And no, because what's the underlying question? The underlying question is mass migration of Somalis in this instance, but we could talk about other groups and other communities, and it's the same story. Mass migration, indiscriminate migration, essentially. Without consideration, I mean, this is the subtext, without consideration for the likelihood of assimilation, without consideration for the likelihood of independence, as opposed to state dependence. Is that a net positive or net negative? Makes the community stronger or weaker? Oh, stronger. No, it doesn't. Obviously it doesn't. The vision of the beacon of opportunity and freedom that is America is to come here to be a state dependent. Well, the incidence of this community or that community that's native born with respect to accessing benefit, who cares? It's not relevant. What's relevant is the decision, the criteria we use to make decisions about who is allowed to come to this country. And the point is, we've been using the wrong criteria. We're not using criteria, whether it's from Somalia or Central Europe. Dispense with their identitarian bull jive. Are we making sure this individual person is either fleeing religious or political persecution and is a legitimate asylee candidate, and or is coming to this country with the idea of becoming an American, not a Somali separatist living in America, is interested in assimilating because that provides the best chance of success, just like immigrants from a century ago did, and is interested in being independent, which is part of what defines success, rather than a state dependent. That's what Brandon Gill is getting to. And in response to that, I mean, just to give you a sense of the left, like you need another sense, but this is an instant classic. And I don't recall ever hearing from this Rothel from Washington State. Emily Randall is a congresswoman. And I'm going to tip you off here. How do you know she's a Rothel, Dan? She went to Wellesley. Hillary Clinton, you. I rest my case. And if that wasn't enough, listen to what she said.
We can trot out all of the data that we want to create the sense that there is a bad guy. There is a bad group of people. There are folks who are not among us. There are folks who are other. And I think we should spend a lot more time looking at ourselves, looking at American citizens, looking at white men.
At Wellesley Education, hey, we can't be othering people. Now let's indiscriminately look at white men because they're as a monolith. They're monolith number one, and they're the problem. It's so compelling. Ah, man. On so many of these stories, I do just the SNL skit of Dana Carvey as George H.W. Bush and John Lovitz as Dukakis comes to mind, but in reverse. You listen to this play out in these states, including my home state of Illinois, and you say to yourself, like Lovitz said to himself on that debate stage after listening to Dana Carvey's, babbling impersonation of George Herbert Walker Bush, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy. I cannot believe we're losing to these people in Washington State and Minnesota and New York and Illinois and Maine. Stunning. For more on this, please be joined by Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, former Virginia Attorney General, of course, and former Deputy Secretary of DHS, Homeland Security. Ken, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be with you, Dan.
So one of the things, so let's meld a couple of these issues. One of the things that was raised by Dr. Oz this week, and he's become more relevant than ever because of Medicaid fraud, and he is the director of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is that part of the play here is get these people on the welfare rolls and you get them on the voter rolls.
Oh, no question. This is several separate pipelines, but there's lots of things going on here. We've seen the child care fraud. You're going to see that expand beyond child care. Look, when I was Attorney General, we broke the record for Medicaid fraud prosecutions in Virginia, the 12th largest state with the largest prosecutions. Well, Minnesota is probably going to break those records. Now we were operating nationally.
No thanks to their Attorney General, that's for sure.
No. He's in on covering it up. He's not alone, of course, but they're disarmed. They, being the people who are supposed to police fraud in Minnesota, are disarmed by their political virtue signaling. So Somalis in Minnesota can do no wrong in the woke left pantheon, and even when they're doing lots of wrong, and the Keith Ellisons and the Tim Wallses of the world will cover for them rather than investigate. And we're seeing the consequences of that. And that's true whether it's across their elections, whether it's across their welfare, frankly, every other form of crime that you see. They cover for these communities because they're part of their woke virtue signaling. So it's quite a benefit if you're a Somali. The law doesn't apply to you.
And their political constituency, as you were insinuating. I mean, that's the key. Where their power resides is essentially owning these populations electorally. And when it becomes too much, when their time as a mascot is run, they become more of a liability than an asset for identitarian political purposes, then they quietly walk away. So we find the Quality Leering Center that just bought a new sign. It's very sad. After 8.5 years of allegedly, according to one of the managers, being open every day, even though the state officials said no, they were closed and reopened or whatever it was, millions of dollars later, the Quality Leering/Learning Center is now quietly closed just this week.
Shocking. A little bit late on that one, Charlie. But
right.
All that leering.
Yes.
Part of what's funny here is they didn't even spell leering correctly.
That's true. They were sounding it out. As you just heard from Brandon Gill, it's a coin toss with respect to their English proficiency a decade later. And so let's talk about your other role though too, former role as Deputy Secretary of DHS, and I want to get your perspective on what the Homeland Security Secretary had to say yesterday in response to that ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis.
The facts of the matter is he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today. You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons. This domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety.
What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, first of all, it's very advantageous to have so much video of an incident. Let's just be blunt about it if we want to judge the incident. And there's lots of it out there, several different angles. The car actually struck the agent and was after being detained. By detained, I mean ordered to get out of the car. She clearly heard it. Her window was down. And she hit the gas, not the brake, and then hit the officer. So under those circumstances, with the officer in front of the car, yes, he was off the left corner, but he was in front of the vehicle and was struck by the vehicle. The shoot is a legitimate self-defense act, particularly when they had been being stalked all day. And information isn't out yet, so I'm not sure whether these particular agents would have specifically identified the specific vehicle as being among their stalkers. But if you look at the video footage, you see that the vehicle is perpendicular to the roadway. She's blocking the roadway.
Right.
And anybody military listening to you and me would recognize that immediately as an ambush position. Doesn't mean that's what she intended or was going to do, but there's no reason those officers to know what she intends. All they can see is what she's actually doing. And, under those circumstances, the Supreme Court law is not new on this. The incident is judged in the moment from the perspective of a reasonable officer under the circumstances as he knew them. And I'm confident, as the Secretary just said, that this is going to be a legally defensible act of self-defense. That doesn't mean anybody should be happy about the fact that the woman didn't survive. The point of shooting is to stop the threat. It isn't to kill, it's to stop. And there is a difference, but sometimes stop ends up being kill. And that's on her, that's not on the officer. And, this is going to take a long time to play out. While I think the federal officials will clear the officer quickly, the woman is dead, so there won't be a formal prosecution. Doesn't mean there won't be an investigation if she wasn't working with others. But there can also be state prosecutions that will be removed to federal court that could take a long time to go through for this officer, and for him to be, cleared both federally and at the state level. So this is a long, arduous path for this officer. It's easy. It's easy to depersonalize this stuff at a distance. You and I don't know these two people, but every day an officer of the law straps on a gun. They're the only people. We don't even ask military to do this. They're the only people we ask to walk into harm's way in this country every single day, with the threat that their life could be taken or threatened, as this one was.
That's the larger point.
And to stand in the way of that. And he literally was standing in the way of it.
And that's the larger point. The larger point is that this is being fomented by the left. Now, maybe to this point, it hasn't risen to the level of criminality, but this sort of half-assed vigilantism, this is purposeful. Yeah. I would argue this is looking for cause celebs. This is looking for people to do stupid things and sacrifice themselves for the purpose of being political fodder for politicians like Walz and Fry and Omar, as we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, they are. I don't want to say celebrating this. They want this tragedy. They want the blood. They want the controversy, because they don't care about the officer. They don't care about his family. They don't care about this woman or her family. They just care about scoring political points, and they're happy to have the opportunity, in their view, to do it. The only people I think they score political points with are their radical left bases, which they're already pretty solid with, really. But ordinary Americans see this and they act with revulsion. That's the reaction, and it should be. And by that I mean the instigating and we'll see what happens in Minneapolis, but when I was deputy secretary, they let their own cities burn.
Yeah.
In Portland, Oregon, we see it's a community activity. Minneapolis picked it up after the George Floyd killing. And granted, that was not a legitimate police action. But those are incredibly rare. And yesterday's does not fall in that category. This was an action by an offender, the woman driving, struck an officer who had previously been dragged by a vehicle. He responded in a fashion I suspect that we will learn about his training, where he was trained to do a 2 or 3 shot burst and as backing off, and that's exactly what he did. That all happened. If you watch the first video that got out on social media, from the time you see the first 2 ICE officers walking, not running, walking to approach the vehicle, telling the woman to get out of the vehicle with an open window, which means she is detained and can't leave, till the point where she hits the gas and hits the officer is a total of 8 seconds. The whole thing happens in 8 seconds. And the shots, of course, are less than half a second. It's just literally, it's a burst as the officer's being hit by the vehicle and bouncing off to the side. And he keeps his feet. So, it's tragic. The left wants this. They want this. They don't want the law enforced, and they treat enforcing the law as some sort of violation of what should be going on, when in fact all these people, and I love your phrase, half-assed vigilantism, that's exactly what it is. These people want to be in the way. They want to be harassed. They want to be harassed. They want someone to video them being harassed so they can be a hero, but they don't want to get up to the line of being arrested or hurt. Well, this woman crossed the line in her half-assed vigilantism. What she thinks of as vigilantism, really what it is half-assed law-breaking.
Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, former Virginia Attorney General, and former Deputy Secretary of Department of Homeland Security as well. Ken, thank you as always. Appreciate your time.
Hey, good to be with you. Talk to you, Dan.
Good to have you. And Ken Cuccinelli joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Tired of tech headaches slowing your business down? Unique Computing Solutions has been the go-to IT team for businesses in Illinois and Northwest Indiana for nearly 30 years. We've seen how a poor IT infrastructure can cripple productivity. Your systems should be running smoothly, your data secured, and your communication should be streamlined. Get a free assessment today at uniquecomputing-solutions.com. That's uniquecomputing-solutions.com. Your IT challenges solved.
Everybody loves the season of giving, but now the season of paying for it is upon us. That not-so-wonderful time of the year when millions of Americans open their credit card statements, stare in horror at the balance, and resolve then and there to find new ways to save money. If you're among those Americans, why not start by cutting your wireless bill in half right now with Pure Talk's Saver Plan? It's easy. You'll get unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on a super-fast, nationwide 5G network for just $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Ho, ho, ho! And if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. That's pound 250. Say Mike Rowe for the gift that keeps on saving from America's wireless company. Pure Talk.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Coming up 7:37, we'll talk to former Chicago mayoral candidate and CPS Superintendent Paul Vallis. We'll talk about K-12 education. He may have some insight into the layers of scam in the big government institutions in the city and state here, don't you think? We'll check that out. 7:37, now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 42 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Protesters gathered in Little Village yesterday in response to the shooting of a Minneapolis woman by ICE agents. The Little Village Community Council President Baltazar Enriquez issued a statement calling on the people of Chicago to, quote, stand together to demand justice, to protect one another, and to insist on a nation where no one is killed for existing, for migrating, or for being brown. A new curfew ordinance has been approved by the Chicago City Council Safety Committee. That ordinance allows for specific time and site curfews to thwart teen takeovers like the deadly one that happened back in November. If passed by the City Council, that ordinance will require approval from the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and require 12 hours advance notice for issuing a curfew. And the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services is accepting applications for the 2026 DCFS Scholarship Program. They'll take those till March 31st. Applications can be found online at illinois.gov. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings isn't impressed with the United Nations.
As well as thanking China and Russia for their support for holding of this meeting.
Okay, so Somalia is running a meeting. Colombia is thanking Russia and China for their support. This is the United Nations Security Council. You couldn't make this up. You couldn't make one of those Mad Libs this crazy if you tried.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hello, everyone. It's Tom, the founder of Freedom Boat Clubs of Michiana, now with 9 wonderful locations across Northwest Indiana and beautiful Southwest Michigan. With the holidays upon us, it's a perfect time to reflect on what matters most in our lives. Few of us will ever wish we'd spent more time at work. As the old saying goes, time spent on the water will not be subtracted from our lifespan, so just how precious is that boating time? At Freedom Boat Club, we make boating simple and accessible for everyone. Just join the club and get unlimited free training plus unlimited boat usage when you want. No hassles, no complications, just quality time on the water with the people you love the most. Time is money, and Freedom Boat Club is perhaps the most efficient way to experience boating and create unforgettable memories together. For more information, please call me at 269-281-8889 or visit fbcmichiana.com. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here with Wesley Financial Group. My 78-year-old friend Linda called me yesterday. She bought a $40,000 timeshare in Nashville. She was told it was a great investment and that he would personally book all her vacations. All lies. She called our sales rep, Chris, the next morning at 4:57 a.m. to cancel, and she was told it was too late. You had your chance yesterday. Another lie. She has 10 days in Tennessee. I am in a war with the timeshare industry because people keep buying their lies and they don't want me to help you. If you need a timeshare, I'm sure one of the 3,500 people that call my office weekly would love to give you one of theirs. Or go online and pay $1 for it. But stop paying $40,000 for lies. It's time to stop the insanity. Don't wait another day.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-364-7711. That's 800-364-7711. 800-364-7711.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Alver. Jam-packed now on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem Road and Pulaski Road with a collision blocking the center lane, so it's 41 minutes from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 16. The 57 inbound between 127th Street and 119th Street, that is stop and go because of a crash. And then also real slow on the Reagan Memorial, eastbound into the Tri-State. Now the Eisenhower inbound from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office is 47 minutes. Outbound is 50. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 25 minutes. Outbound is 29. Hitting the brakes on the Kennedy Express inbound from Damon Avenue to Ohio Street. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than the big box stores. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring a breeze and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy conditions throughout the day with a high of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Oh, I haven't heard Space Age Love Song in a while. It's good to get a little flock of seagulls in the morning. This was interesting. We've had Jamal Green on the show before. Unlike people who disagree with me on many policy solutions, he is courageous enough to come on and go back and forth with me. Unlike, say, BLM Brandon or Pritzker, people that actually get elected. Or Lightfoot after she was elected. Before she was elected, she came on the primary. But after she was elected, she got a little skittish. Understandable. You know, if you're defenseless, you don't really want to come on this program. Anyway, back to Jamal Green. He was on this podcast I had not heard of previously, Herb and Tao, a couple of black dudes, but seems to be maybe a podcast that has some following in Chicago. I don't know. It had enough of a following that some of Jamal Green's comments apparently triggered Stacey Davis Gates, the boss of the Chicago Teachers Union, and I do mean that in the mob sense of the word boss. And the podcasters put out a public service announcement after their sit-down with Jamal Green, saying that the interview would not be aired in its entirety because there were portions of what Jamal Green said that were inaccurate per information that came to light after the I mean, okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't look, as I said, Jamal Green is an interesting young guy, and he identifies a lot of the problems that we also see. But generally speaking, we have some very different solutions to those problems. He still hasn't figured out that government restraint is the real play here, not bigger, more intrusive government, more meddling and dial turning and lever pulling. But I digress. He addressed the BLM Brandon regime to date, just as he previously was critical of Lori Lightfoot. So at least he's willing to go on the record. on the obvious results that baffle so much of the city. At least baffle them, even if they, find BLM Brandon subpar intellectually, just as they found Lori Lightfoot subpar personality-wise. They still don't get the paradigm shift that's required to actually improve conditions and set Chicago on a different trajectory. They don't get that. These constituents that support, more intrusive, complicated, bigger city interventions. But nonetheless, since Herb and Tao don't want to give J. Mel Green his props, I'm willing to hear him out.
Man walks into office. In the first city council meeting he signs off on $51 million for the migrants. Since he has been mayor, this whole pro-black didn't happen until the money ran out. Let's be clear. If y'all want to go to the back, let's go back to when he was building migrant tent camps in the black community, and Governor Pritzker had to stop him from doing it.
I had a problem with that.
If you want to go back to those same schools that you want to talk about that Rahm shut down when he ruined the school system, is the same schools he used for migrant shelters. Stop playing this pro-black shit. Brandon Johnson has not done one thing for black people since he's been in office, and he only started talking that pro-black shit when the money ran out. When the migrant shit started dying down, now it's pro-black. But you put $500,000 in a commission to study reparations, and you gave over $1 billion and kept signing it off. And on top of that, the $1 billion that you spent on migrants, how much did you spend on black people since you pro-black? Let's talk about it. Majority of that money went to an outside company in Florida to manage the shelters, to do transportation, to do child care. There are no black child care providers that can watch migrant kids. There's no transportation providers that can transport migrants. That's $1 billion out the window in 18 months. When have you seen that type of investment in black people? So when you want to talk about real
so he's right on some things. I mean, the schools were a disaster long before Tiny Dancer came to town, and closing 50 schools that are underpopulated, and there's many more. That's not ruining the schools. Example of where we disagree. And again, the whole philosophy is basically, let's play the spoils of war. Let's play the spoils of war politics. I just want my people at the front of the line rather than at the back of the line or even the middle of the line. Well, that's just perpetuating the kleptocracy, isn't it? When I say, I like Jamal in terms of identifying people who are engaged in sleight of hand, but he just doesn't have the right perspective on the system change that's required. Somebody who is a lot closer to the right solutions, Paul Vallis. He is former CEO and CEO of CPS, former candidate for mayor. He also writes weekly for our friends over at the Chicago Contrarian. Paul, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, the whole sort of stop, look, and listen, BLM Brandon, almost, but also only 2 years in. What do you think about what J. Mal had to say?
He's right on target, and he has consistently gone after Johnson. Even during the debates, I was in about 40 forums with him, and he consistently has beat up on Johnson and Stacey Davis Gates. In fact, when she attacks him, he retaliates in kind. So he does not hold back, and he's been outspoken on the huge migrant subsidies, which when you include not only what the city is putting in, and I think it's close to $600 million when you include the schools, what the schools subsidizing, and then what Pritzker's put in, we're talking about $3 billion. And Johnson's budget, so-called progressive budget, is nothing but BS. He's done very, very little. There's no real investment on the south and west sides. I think they opened 3 of the 12 mental health centers that Rahm Emanuel has closed. The progressive budget is an illusion. So all he's resorting to is rhetoric. This whole budget, everybody thinks, oh my God, Johnson didn't get his head tax, so somehow he suffered a defeat. He got 98% of what he wanted in this budget. He got his 20 tax and fee increases that are all regressive, by the way, And he got his $552 million subsidy for the Chicago Public Schools. In other words, the Chicago Public Schools, who raised their property taxes $272 million this year, his board, his appointed, the majority of board members he controls, they gave them another $552 million in property taxes from the TIP program. So at the end of the day, this budget was all about subsidizing former employees, the Chicago employers, the Chicago Teachers Union, so that they could pay for that record $1.6 billion teacher contract. So he's just a fraud, and he's doing real damage to the black community. I did a piece basically in the Contrarian the week before where I basically talked about Johnson's anti-black agenda. So all we're being fed with is rhetoric. He's trying to rally his base through rhetoric, and there's no. It's just a gigantic ripoff. He is a absolute fraud.
But he's not the only one. I argued during that pretend fight between the Billy Conways and the Matt O'Shea's and the mayor's office, that exactly what you were just saying, which is like the corporate head tax. Like this is like, it's reminding me of the sugar tax. Like this is the real big fight of our time. This was all nonsense, and it's a way for people who have aspirations or just want separation from Brandon Johnson to provide something where they can point to prospective donors and to constituents, say, I went to the mat against the corporate head tax and we won because I'm a real reformer, and I don't buy Billy Conway or Matt O'Shea or any of those phony reformers either.
Dan, you are absolutely 100% right. It was all theater. What the head tax allowed him to do was the grandstand. So while he's sneaking his 20 tax and fee increases, including raising the so-called cloud tax. In other words, anytime you use a computer, get computer services, you now pay a 14% tax, largest in the nation. While he was getting all those things and handing the Chicago Teachers Union another $552 million in property taxes. Incidentally, they've given the union since 2019 $1.9 billion in additional property taxes through the TIP program, which is a scam in itself. While he was doing all those things, he could keep the focus and public attention on the head tax. And, of course, the media fell into play. It was all about him and the rhetoric and the drama over the head tax while he was passing this horrendous budget, which is only going to mean next year they're going to come back with another terrible budget because the city is going to be in worse financial shape next year.
With respect to Venezuela, we mentioned this at the outset of the week, just refreshing people's recollection of the Chicago Teachers Union. Now, this was under Jesse Sharkey, but what's the difference, really, between Jesse Sharkey and Stacey Davis Gates? Same program. But you know, in case people had forgotten, the glorious delegation that was sent to study the school system there in Venezuela under Maduro, and they came back with rave reviews of Maduro that they didn't. Sarah Chambers on the executive board didn't see any homeless people. And they marveled at the school system in Caracas under dictator Maduro, and the way they described him, I mean, it was almost like he was their Horace Mann. So that at least we know now where the CTU model for CPS comes from. It comes from Venezuela.
Yeah, look, the Chicago Teachers Union is not a teachers union anymore. They're a political party, and they've veered far to the left. And I think they've all but given up the ability to really improve student performance, which is why they're demonizing standardized testing. They're not ranking schools by test scores anymore. Why they want to get rid of the magnet schools. So they've really given up, and so that they can define what constitutes success. But with regards to Venezuela, a country that has deeper oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, and I think they have more gold reserves than any country on the planet, one of the richest South American countries. 90% of those people live in poverty, and Maduro has killed 20,000 of his own citizens, people who have opposed him. And so that's the model. That's the model for this corrupt Chicago Teachers Union. And I'll tell you, the Chicago Teachers Union is not only bankrupting the schools, we're spending $34,000 a kid for a school system that's failing us and that is denying us quality school choices. but they're also bankrupting the city because this year, in this year's budget, the city provided the school district with another $1.3 billion in subsidies. No municipality in the state provides the type of subsidies that the Chicago that the mayor provides the Chicago public schools. And it didn't just begin with Johnson; it's just gotten significantly worse with Johnson. So they're going to he's going to bankrupt. They're going to bankrupt both the city and the schools simultaneously. And the sooner people realize that the Chicago Teachers Union is going to destroy the city financially, it's already destroying it academically because it's and economically because it's not educating our kids. The sooner people realize that they are the great threat to the city's future, the better off we'll be.
So, do you have any idea when, speaking of the Caracas model, when we get the city-run grocery stores and the new government housing projects in the financial district? Those were promised, and I'm waiting for them.
Well, we're going to get nothing. First of all, they don't know what they're doing. They're totally inept, and what you find is when you find individuals who don't know what they're doing, they're totally inept. They fall back on ideology. They fall into the comfort zone, which is to play the race card and to talk about the war with the millionaires and things like that. I mean, they're really incredible. This is a really incredibly amateurish group. So at the end of the day, they're accomplishing nothing. And I'll tell you, the community that's getting hurt is the community that is least mobile, is the community that has the highest crime, for example. And that's the black community. And the black community needs to realize that this that this current leadership is doing great damage to that community. We literally have an apartheid school system in Chicago where if you come from a low-income family, you are stuck in failing, half-empty, often dangerous neighborhood schools, and the overwhelming vast majority of the kids who are in those conditions are black and Latino. So at the end of the day, I believe that the Justice Department needs to come in and step in and come in with a consent decree and, in effect, provide oversight for the Chicago public schools. I think it's time that we had a Justice Department investigation because the kids are being denied a quality education and we're paying through the nose for abject failure.
Yeah, I noted last week Colorado Governor Jared Polis, who is Democrat and pretty far left Democrat, actually, but he has fits of pragmatism. He had this to say in announcing that Colorado would opt in to the federal school choice tax credit that was part of the big, beautiful bill that Trump passed. He said, quote, "It supports donors to give more money to our schools. I mean, I would be crazy not to opt in." His spokeshuman said Governor Polis is not interested in leaving hundreds of millions of federal dollars on the table that could provide additional resources to after-school programming, summer school scholarships, and academic tutoring, and benefit Colorado students attending both public and private schools. So even a liberal Dem like Jared Polis can't make it make sense to walk away from the obvious benefits of Trump's federal school choice program, but both J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson can.
Right. Well, there's been even Arnie Duncan came out in praise of that and said there could be as much as $1 billion in donations coming through that mechanism that could help both all children who attend both public schools and private schools or homeschools, etc. But yet they're not going to participate in it, and it's just an act of cowardice. But I want to tell you something that really offended me, and I'm tweeting on this morning, and just to go to show you with Johnson and what's being ignored. Johnson, as you know, grandstanded yesterday about the woman who was killed in a confrontation with ICE in Minnesota. And there he was, doing like a state of the city, and there he was grandstanding and shedding a tear. Last year there were 234 kids in the Chicago Park who, under the age of 17 years old, school-age children who were shot in Chicago. 49 of them were killed. 14 of the 49 who were killed were 12 years or younger. Have you seen anything from Johnson? Have you ever seen anything from Stacey Davis Gates in the Chicago Teachers Union? When they shut down schools for 78 consecutive weeks during COVID in defiance of the science, there were 900 kids school-age children who were shot over that period of 2 years, and about 125 were murdered. And you never saw a newspaper article. You never heard peep. So this is the type of leadership we're getting. But look, my final comment is: what do you expect when the city's being run by a failed teacher who lasted 1 year as a high school teacher, and he's being controlled and managed by another failed teacher, Stacey Davis Gates, who lasted 6 years in the classroom before she figured out the only way to survive is to become a union organizer. So, I mean, that's what you get. You elect incompetent ideologues, and these are the results that you get.
Yeah, and Stacey Davis Gates, it's worth reminding people, she's a big fan of school choice for her, just not for anybody else. Paul Vallis, Senior Policy Advisor at Illinois Policy Institute, writes weekly for the Chicago Contrarian, former CEO of CPS and former candidate for mayor as well. Paul, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
And Paul joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Did you know that most remodeling problems start before construction begins? Unclear plans, uncertain timelines, unexpected costs. At Forever Remodeling, every kitchen, bathroom, and basement remodel starts with smart planning, clear project details, 3D design previews, and accurate upfront pricing before you commit to the project. With Forever Remodeling, there is no stress, no guesswork, no surprises. Ready to remodel? Start with a smart plan today by visiting foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Different videos, different angles, different viewpoints. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, on what happened in Minneapolis when an immigration officer shot and killed a woman, a citizen, in her SUV.
This officer not only needs to be fired and suspended, but based on the video, he needs to be charged with murder.
That's Congressman Dan Goldman. Minneapolis' Mayor Jacob Frey, also a Democrat, is urging ICE to get the bleep out of his city. President Trump also watched at least one of the videos, and Fox's Aisha Hasni reports from the White House.
He is saying that it seems the officer shot the woman in self-defense, and in an interview with the New York Times as well, he says this, quote, "I want to see nobody get shot. I want to see nobody screaming and trying to run over policemen either. That was a vicious situation that took place." His Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, says that this was an act of domestic terrorism.
Noem says the woman shot, Renee Good, had stalked agents, refused to comply with orders, and drove toward the officer. There's a manhunt in Salt Lake City, Utah, for the gunman who opened fire last night outside a church, where inside this man says there was a viewing for his cousin.
That passed away just a couple of days ago, and tragic happened. 4 of my other cousins got shot.
There were 8 people shot in all. 2 died, 3 are in critical condition. Days after the U.S. operation in Venezuela capturing Nicolas Maduro, the leader, there's a vote in the Senate on a war powers resolution pushed by Democrats trying to limit future military action there. Tomorrow, President Trump plans to meet with oil company executives discussing building production back up in Venezuela. Energy Secretary Chris Wright just told Fox Business it's not just the companies helping.
The interim authorities in Venezuela, they're very interested in how they can get their oil industry back going forward again, not only to stabilize and grow production, but to get the corruption out of it.
A spacewalk's been canceled today because an astronaut at the International Space Station suffered what NASA's calling a medical emergency. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 42 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A transgendered employee is suing the Chicago Cubs in federal court. According to court documents, the facility's employee claims she was subjected to ongoing sexual and gender-based harassment as well as discrimination, including being called derogatory names. The complaint states the employee reported those incidents to the supervisor and was subjected to hostility for doing so. The employee is seeking back and front pay, compensatory and punitive damages, and compensation for loss of benefits, interest, and attorney's fees and costs. Nearly $1 billion in federal taxpayer money for child care and family assistance programs are being withheld from the state of Illinois. Greg Bishop has the story.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced it would freeze $10 billion from 5 states. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt Wednesday said their goal is clear.
The Department of Health and Human Services has also begun requiring a justification and photo evidence for all child care-related payments nationwide.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said all told approximately $1 billion could be impacted. Pritzker said the freeze is wrong, it is cruel, and the state will take every step possible to defend those impacted. HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill said that should be easy.
We're not trying to slow things down. We're not slowing things down. We're just saying when states send us a funding request for a legitimate program, we're going to start saying, just show us some receipts.
Impacted programs, the Child Care and Development Block Grant, Social Services Block Grant, and temporary assistance for needy families. I'm Greg Bishop.
This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There's another sign surging demand for artificial intelligence isn't cooling yet. Samsung is predicting its operating profit tripled in the recent quarter. It's reporting surging demand for its artificial intelligence chips, which sent prices sharply higher. Though most of Samsung's profits used to come from smartphones, now its semiconductor business accounts for more than half of earnings. Two of the nation's largest real estate brokerages are planning to close their merger on Friday, Compass and Anywhere. Shareholders of both companies voted overwhelmingly to approve the merger during special meetings, and a regulatory waiting period for the merger expired last week. And electricity giant Constellation Energy has closed its deal to buy Calpine. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Everybody loves the season of giving, but now the season of paying for it is upon us. That not-so-wonderful time of the year when millions of Americans open their credit card statements, stare in horror at the balance, and resolve then and there to find new ways to save money. If you're among those Americans, why not start by cutting your wireless bill in half right now with Pure Talk's Saver Plan? It's easy. You'll get unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on a super-fast, nationwide 5G network for just $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Ho, ho, ho. And if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. That's pound 250. Say Mike Rowe for the gift that keeps on saving from America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98. My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for $39.98. Blankets, comforters, and duvets for as low as $25, and a blowout sale on the standard MyPillows for just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including the standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.99. Kings only $1 more. 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. We know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they are extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Promo code LIBERTY.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jammed northbound on Lakeshore Drive as you head into Hollywood Avenue. Stop and go on the Stevenson inbound with a crash at Pulaski Road. Delays start at Harlem Avenue. The center lane is blocked. It's 40 minutes from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 19. Hitting the brakes on the 57 inbound with a crash at 119th Street. 2 left lanes are blocked. The Tri-State northbound slows down from 31st Street to the Eisenhower, and it's 53 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 39. 37 minutes inbound on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 34. The express lanes inbound slow down into Ohio Street. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain showers and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring breezy conditions and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy skies with a high temperature of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Well, over the last 3 or 4 days, there's certainly been some wildly hypocritical hot takes on the apprehension and removal of Nicolas Maduro to face narco-trafficking charges in New York. All of those leftists who blamed Trump not being tough enough on Maduro, for being all talk on Maduro. They were going to be tougher. Why hasn't he gone in and taken out Maduro? That was their posture a few years ago. And now their posture is, how dare they remove the leader of a sovereign foreign country? Mm-hmm. So there's the pro forma hypocrisy of the left. And then there's sort of next level hot takes of the order of a snake eating its tail. So enters Serpent Head, James Carville, on with, professional anti-American agitator, which doesn't distinguish him from a lot of his MS Now MSNBC/MS Now colleagues, Ari Melber, that we have awoken some unidentified giants, and we better protect our backside now that we have done what we did in Venezuela.
It's not going to affect your life. In fact, it could very well adversely affect your life, because we're saying international order doesn't matter. Anybody could look, if it was legitimate to invade a corrupt and an attempted authoritarian nation, then we better get troops on San Francisco and Boston and all up and down the east and west coast, because we would be ripe for invasion if somebody wanted to overturn a massively corrupt regime, which is, in my opinion, which we have here right this minute. And I think it's unfolding right in front of us.
Is that right? So who's coming, Jimmy? I mean, of course, this is just the blithe ignorance you get away with on, well, MS Now and so many of the cable news and podcasts and so forth. It doesn't even take into account that Maduro had fallen out of favor with his fellow erstwhile Marxist narco-terrorist allies like Petro in Colombia and to some extent Canel in Cuba. I mean, in addition to all of the other complications about the idea that there's some force, whether a foreign national force or some extraterritorial force that is going to wreak vengeance in the name of Maduro. It's about, I take that about as seriously as I take the idea that there's a standing order for Danish authorities in Greenland to open fire were there a foreign incursion in Greenland without waiting for authorization from, the crown back in Copenhagen. Okay. Speaking of mindlessness, Megyn Kelly. I don't understand why some of these people have such standing among so many conservatives. I really don't. She was on Tucker Carlson's show, and she said this. She is not joining in support of Trump's operation to bring the fugitive named Maduro and his wife to justice. Why? Because she's worried about reprisals from Tren de Aragua.
Did anybody anticipate that? I don't think so. Okay, Venezuela is not Libya. It's not full of a bunch of Middle Eastern potential terrorists, but it's not great. Like, they've got a bunch of gangs down there who have zero problem killing Americans. Let's check in with Tren de Aragua. Let's check in with Laken Riley's family to find out whether they have any empathy for Americans. Doesn't seem so. And I don't know what faction of that group we're ticking off right now with our behavior.
So we should base our foreign policy on whether or not we upset narco-terrorist gangs like Tren de Aragua or MS-13? What are you talking about? Laken Riley was killed by a Venezuelan goon because of the left's open border policies under Biden, right? And that's changed, not only in terms of the security of our border, but in terms of the effort afoot to remove people who pose public safety and national security threats, as well as people who are just here illegally. I mean, but just that analysis is almost as ridiculous as James Carville's. I would really encourage people who listen to this show to try to separate the wheat from the chaff, including on the alleged conservative side. Honestly. Embarrassing. More on this. Pleased to be joined by Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities and a syndicated foreign affairs columnist for the Chicago Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel DePetris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good. So do we have to worry about San Francisco being taken over by some unnamed foreign nation, yet to be named foreign nation, or should we base our policies on what narco gangs, what does or does not upset narco terrorist organizations?
Here's the thing about Tren de Aragua, okay? And I've heard this repeated ad nauseum over the last 3 months. The Maduro regime and Tren de Aragua do not have a concrete connection to each other. It's a figment of people's imagination, and the Trump administration has kind of cited this as well, and they were wrong. Tren de Aragua is a thuggish gang that extorts, people under its control. It peddles drugs, and it has franchises around the world. It does not take orders from the Venezuelan government. So,
yeah, but they could be upset. They could be upset because Maduro let them operate, and now they're going to, I don't know, launch some sort of attack in response to this. At least this is a concern of Megyn Kelly's, and she's a person that has a big following, so we're supposed to take her seriously.
Right. Well, I mean, I just think Megyn is wrong. There will be people upset in the gang, I'm sure, but the notion that this kind of group of thuggish individuals is going to take on Uncle Sam and the U.S. military in some sort of frontal assault is just nonsense.
All right. So let's so let's get to the serious matter for serious people. So how is the what's next coming into focus at this point?
Yeah, so a lot is up in the air. I think the Trump administration seems to be settling on stability over democracy, and I know a lot of people are kind of upset about that. There's an assumption that as soon as they pluck Maduro out of the presidential palace or wherever he was staying on that military base, the United States would hand over authority to Maria Corina Machado and her Democratic opposition group. And obviously Trump has decided not to do that for the time being. There was a lot of kind of shock and consternation among Venezuelan exiles about that decision. But I kind of view it in a different way. I think it was actually smart because Machado, as popular as she is with some segments of the Venezuelan population, does not have any support whatsoever within the Venezuelan security services. And you need their acceptance to, do a viable political transition. So Trump is basically trying to work within the system rather than build an entirely new one, which, of course, is what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense, too. I certainly understand the process. And I also have noted emphasis from Rubio and others with the word interim in describing Delcy Rodriguez and, the regime currently in place. So, they're making her sing for her supper. I mean, they're in addition to the oil that is being extracted, there's also the demand was made for Chinese, Iranian, and Russian delegations to be ejected from Venezuela and not to do business with them. The oil embargo is being enforced. We saw that yesterday with the ghost ships that were taken by Coast Guard. So, it seems to me that I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a call for all the political prisoners to be released. I'd like to see food being provided by America to Venezuelans who have been starving. And we used to remember reporting from the D.C. press corps about Venezuelans that had to chase down stray animals for food. That's how bad the situation was under Maduro. That reporting has gone away, of course. But I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But it seems to me that the process is going to go in phases, and you need to ultimately at some point set the stage for an election, but set the stage for an election where if Machado or Edmundo Gonzalez or the collective of them take power, they're in a position to purge the generals and actually take control of the apparatus to change Venezuela's course.
I mean, yes, and it's going to take a very long time. Let's face it. I mean, Venezuela hasn't been a democratic state in a quarter century. All the democratic institutions that were alive and well and actually performed a pretty good public service are now beholden to the people that hold the machine guns, and that's Diosdado Cabello, General Vladimir Padrino, and in some cases Delcy Rodriguez, the interim president. So this is going to take a very long time, and I think Trump and his New York Times interview this morning kind of suggested it will take a long time. I think that's correct. I just hope the administration doesn't take Venezuela's problems onto its own shoulders. That's what I'm personally worried about. And right now, it's sort of up in the air as to whether that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, something else, too. I mean, just because you're dealing with so much demagoguery and misinformation on this, in terms of the oil, since this is a particular focus of the detractors here, both Trump and Rubio have said that Venezuelan oil will be sold at market rates in the U.S. because the money will help the Venezuelan people. The Venezuelan state-owned oil and gas company said the same thing. It will benefit the U.S. as well as the Venezuelan people. And I make this point of emphasis because you have hypocritical pals like Chris Murphy running around saying they're proposing to steal Venezuelans' oil at gunpoint, and that is not what's happening.
Well, I got to say, to Murphy's, I don't agree with what Murphy's saying, obviously, but he does have a point in that it's an unusual arrangement, right? I mean, but sure. At the same time, we're in an unusual circumstance. So the way I see it and the way the administration has explained it is they're going to sell Venezuelan oil in the marketplace at market rates. They're going to keep the money in U.S. Treasury accounts, and they're going to distribute that money to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. What that means, I don't know. I mean, the administration has been pretty unspecific about this plan, but that is the broad scopes of what the White House is looking at. And if executed properly, it could work. Who knows? People like myself looking at this from the outside in really have limited information to go on. So that's where we are.
No question, but you still have. I mean, the administration still has tools at their disposal, even tools sans Congress. Although I'm not necessarily excluding the concept of Congress and getting congressional authorization to do more and end some of this silliness. But Delcy Rodriguez, I suspect there's if the evidence against Maduro and his wife is compelling, I suspect there's similar evidence against Delcy Rodriguez. So all it takes is an indictment in South Florida or Manhattan, and she's the next target. And she has to realize that. And if she doesn't, I'm sure somebody would tell her, just in terms of demanding specific performance to deal with the kleptocrats for as long as you have to, until you can help facilitate some sort of popular transition at the behest of the Venezuelan people.
Yeah, it's a classic strategy of coercion. Basically what Trump is doing is saying, meet my demands, and he has plenty of demands, and you went through them earlier, or else, the Venezuelan economy is going to be tanked again, and your personal security might be at stake. It's a classic strategy of coercion, and the United States does have a lot of leverage over Venezuela right now, and particularly the oil industry. So we'll have to see and wait and see if it works. Delcy Rodriguez is known as somebody who's ideological, but she's also probably a little more pragmatic than Maduro ever was. She knows how to work the levers of power, it seems, much more than Maduro did, and she's more competent as an administrator. So we should keep all that in mind as well.
And hopefully she learned the lesson. We don't want to see any rallies with you dancing to Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. That's unseemly. We're not going to tolerate that.
Yes, that should be a rule for everybody on this planet, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to get your take on Greenland, too, just because I want to remind people, among some of the silly, overheated rhetoric around Greenland. Trump, in his joint address to Congress in March of last year, had this to say about Greenland.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security.
So, I mean, he said it in a joint session of Congress, the de facto State of the State address last year. probably wasn't kidding. People have short memories, so now it's back on the table. But all of this concern about some military conflict with Denmark and our larger NATO allies over Greenland, again, reached the silliness level such that Marco Rubio had to assure senators that he's looking more like to negotiate a financial deal. He's not looking to scramble SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, Marco Rubio is going to be, meeting Danish officials and Greenlandic officials next week, actually, on this topic. It seems like Trump wants to actually purchase the islands. That's the number one play here. The White House, of course, is leaving open the option of military force. That's upsetting a lot of Europeans who are aghast at the notion of using force against a NATO ally, which of course it is kind of a troubling thing to think about. But I don't think that's the administration's initial position. They want to purchase the islands. If that doesn't work, they'll probably negotiate an agreement that gives the United States greater access to mineral rights there and probably more military base locations on Greenland, which, by the way, we already have a military base on Greenland for a long time. So the administration does not need to invade Greenland to get what it wants here.
Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities, syndicated foreign columnist at the Chicago Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel DePetris, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And he joins us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
When someone you love is living with memory loss, finding the right care isn't just important, it's everything. At Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace, memory care isn't an add-on, it's all we do.
When Mom moved into Terra Vista, everything changed. She's safe, engaged, and surrounded by people who truly understand dementia. And I finally get to just be her daughter again.
Terra Vista was built specifically for caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, with secure indoor and outdoor spaces, innovative therapies, and a community that feels like home. Residents stay active, connected, and respected every single day.
And the best part? Mom can live with dignity, and I have peace of mind.
If memory care is in your future, choose the community designed for it. Choose Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace. Schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM 560 sent you. Terra Vista, where memory care lives.
Trish Regan provides the analysis you need each day on the Trish Regan podcast.
The Democrats getting so desperate, first of all, had the quote-unquote seditious six with their video saying, oh, don't follow illegal orders. It was just kind of a weird thing to do, right? Because it's not like the president has done anything illegal, but they're trying to effectively sow chaos.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Don't risk losing the news, sports, and weather that AM radio delivers. When Sal and internet service fail, AM is your lifeline. With time running out, your voice matters. Text AM to 39179 and tell Congress vote yes on the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:38, George Clooney is very concerned that Barry Weiss is dismantling CBS News. If only. We'll start there with Hollywood in Toto's Christian Toto. Toto on Clooney at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 45 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Cloudy skies today, occasional showers, high today reaching about 51 degrees. A fatal accident has shut down I-55, impacting commuters this morning. According to reports, that accident happened just before 4 o'clock in the northbound lanes at I-55 at milepost 260 in Romeoville. Officials say at least one of those vehicles involved was a semi-truck. A detour is in place. No word on when that stretch will reopen. A daycare employee has pled guilty to 1 count of child endangerment after cameras caught her putting a child in a garbage can and then later placing that 4-year-old outside in the alley for 20 seconds in 19-degree weather. Anna Patriot was sentenced to 1 year of court supervision, 100 hours of community service, and she'll have to write a letter apologizing to the family. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Catch more money with leading economist Steve Moore.
I'm excited about America. I think things are going really well. I think we've turned a corner here. I think Biden economics is well behind us now. This is a miracle what's going on here. If anything, it's better than I thought it would be. So many good things can happen in the economy. Low inflation, low unemployment rate, consumer confidence up, business confidence up. All of the indicators are pointing north right now.
It's More Money, Saturday at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
I can't believe how much better Dad's doing since we brought on Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest.
I know. He's more engaged, more himself. It makes such a difference having him right here at home. Around the photos, his old record player, his favorite recliner, all the little things he knows. That familiarity really matters with dementia.
And their caregivers, they're just incredible. They treat him with so much patience and respect.
Plus, they helped us tap into a Medicare program that offers 80 hours of respite care for Alzheimer's and dementia.
We're not worried anymore, and Dad gets to stay where he's happiest, at home.
Trust the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, serving Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties. You can call them 24/7 at 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Rashaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way that have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Nearly 6 years ago, Minneapolis burned for days after the death of George Floyd. That riot, fueled by rage-filled rhetoric, touched off riots in other American cities. Lives were lost, businesses destroyed, and Minneapolis has never really recovered. Did anyone learn a lesson about leadership and measured responses? Not in Minneapolis. Mayor Jacob Frey watched his city burn that summer. And this week, after an immigration officer shot and killed a driver that attempted to run him down, Frey had an opportunity to call for calm and ask Minnesotans to wait for a proper investigation. Instead, he screamed expletives into a microphone, claimed ICE is killing people, and that they should get the blank out of Minneapolis. Embattled Governor Tim Walz was a little better than Frey this week, calling DHS a propaganda machine. They learned nothing from 2020. Frey and Walz want to pander to outrage rather than govern rationally. This is not leadership.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed now on the outbound Eden with the crash at Church Street in the left lane. It's 51 minutes from Montrose to Lake Cook. Inbound only 18. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 39 minutes. Outbound is 35. Northbound Lakeshore Drive hitting those brakes as you head into Hollywood Avenue. Stop and go still on the Stevenson with the crash at Pulaski Road in the center lane. 36 minutes from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 18. The Dan Ryan is 30 minutes from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 13. And the Eisenhower inbound from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office, 49 minutes. Outbound is 34. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than big box stores. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect overcast skies with intermittent rain later in the day, reaching a high of 57. Tonight will be blustery with rain and a low of 40. Tomorrow morning will bring a breeze and some early rain, giving way to mostly cloudy conditions throughout the day with a high of 47. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and His Eminence, George Clooney, has weighed in on the controversial hiring of Barry Weiss, founder of the Free Press website, former New York Times columnist, to be the head of CBS News. And remember, George Clooney has standing here, not just as an American, he has standing as an expert. Because expertise is conferred in Hollywood is if you play somebody on a show or in a film. So because he played Edward R. Murrow in Good Night and Good Luck, he has standing on an expert as it pertains to journalism and journalistic standards, obviously. And journalism expert George Clooney said, I'm quote, Barry Weiss is dismantling CBS News as we speak. Am I worried about film studios? Question mark. Sure, it's my business. But my primary loyalty is to my country. I'm much more worried about how we inform ourselves and how we're going to discern reality without a functioning press. Of course, am I worried about film studios because CBS is owned by Paramount? Right. But thank God he put his country first, as you would expect His Eminence George Clooney to do. Much more informed worried about how we inform ourselves and how we're going to discern reality without a functioning press. And, of course, we don't have a functioning press at CBS anymore because Barry Weiss put a hold on a story about immigrants in this country illegally being transferred to facilities in El Salvador. It's funny. I don't remember George Clooney speaking up about his concerns over a functioning press when, say, for example, when David Rhodes was the head of CBS News for 8 years, 2011 to 2019 to be exact, And that overlapped his time at CBS News and then as president of CBS News with Barack Obama's presidency. And you may recall David Rhodes has a brother named Ben Rhodes, who was Barack Obama's national security advisor. But I know that would not color CBS News's coverage of the Obama administration. Of course not. And should be ashamed to even make such a suggestion. But that was not of concern to George Clooney, so it shouldn't be of concern to us because George Clooney puts his country first. I can see the point. By the way, just in terms of the premise, Barry Weiss is dismantling CBS News. If only she was. Because despite Hollywood characterizing her as some conservative, she's not and has never been. The Free Press is a good outlet because it has a lot of great commentary. And we've had Free Press reporters and columnists on. A good commentary, deep commentary across a range of topics. That's why it's interesting. Not because I have any particular affinity for Barry Weiss, because I'm not that big a fan, actually, other than she put together a great outlet in the Free Press. And I'll tell you when she's dismantling CBS News in a good way to make it an actual news outlet, and that's when she gets rid of this perpetually morally indignant dingbat named Margaret Brennan. So until then, I'm sorry to say, I can't agree with His Eminence George Clooney's perspective. But maybe our next guest can persuade me otherwise. He is Christian Toto. He is the host of the Hollywood in Toto, T-O-T-O, Hollywood in Toto podcast, HollywoodInToto.com. And he has taken up this issue of Clooney's concern about the future of news reporting in America. Christian, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Listen, I think that the best patriots, the best American patriots, all live in France, like George Clooney. So, when he defends
yes.
country, that's the best place to do it. You don't do it here. That's ridiculous.
No,
do it here.
You live in France and summer in Lake Como, too.
Yeah, and he was so concerned with informing the public, which is what the press is supposed to do, that he saw President Biden recognized immediately that this guy ain't what he used to be. He's got something significant going on mentally. And then he hid that news for weeks and weeks and weeks until that disastrous debate and Biden's poll numbers fell. And then he penned a brave op-ed in the New York Times saying, hey, guys, he's not what he used to be. I saw a diminished world leader. Let's get him out of there. That's the kind of patriot George Clooney is.
Well, I mean, he beat Jake Tapper to the punch, and I think that's the standard for patriotism.
Yeah, that's right. Give him some points there. Oh, my goodness. It's amazing. And also, I don't think that old George had any comments about the entire media apparatus hiding Biden like he did. I don't think he had any problems with all the fake news stories that have flooded the zone in recent years. I don't think he had any problems with 60 Minutes fighting directly with President Trump, who is telling them, go investigate the Hunter laptop thing. It's a real thing. It's a big deal. And, of course, Leslie Stahl fought him tooth and nail on that. And he didn't talk about the 60 Minutes selectively editing his competitor, Kamala Harris, to make her look sane and smart, which is an easy. Where do we even be? I mean, we can. How much longer in the show do we have? Because it could go on a while.
Well, exactly. And not to mention, I know that George Clooney is not just an American patriot. He's also a global citizen. And I didn't see any commentary about the BBC and the sacking of the executives at BBC when it was revealed they purposely misrepresented what Donald Trump said on January 6th. I haven't seen him comment on the settlements with Trump that ABC News and CBS News have made too. He's very, very selective in his commentary. But I mean, again, that's the Edward R. Murrow, discernment that he has.
That's why I love this Barry Weiss story so much, because after he challenged her and dismissed her and said that she's dismantling CBS News, she fired back in a cordial and funny way and said, bonjour, George. Why don't you come down and visit us at CBS News? We'll show you what's happening here. I'll give you a tour of the facilities, and we'll talk about what's happening. Now, I haven't heard an update on that, but you know, and I know, and the whole world knows that there's no way that George Clooney is going to do this. And what's perfect about the situation is that, listen, this is what I cover for years and years and years. Celebrities, spout off. They don't know what they're talking about on political issues, and they are never, ever, ever challenged. Barry Weiss just challenged him in a friendly, cheeky, professional way, and he doesn't know what to do. He can't follow up on it, right? He can't.
Yeah, no.
She's gonna just say, this is what's happening. This is what I'm trying to do. This is why the media has been so corrupt. This is why I'm necessary. And having said all that, I think Barry Weiss is going to fail. I don't think you take over an institution that is completely corrupted. And if you don't fire people right away, if you don't set things in motion right away, if you don't get rid of the dead wood, they will beat you. And I think we saw that with CNN a couple of years ago, where they tried to make it a little more sane, and they lost completely. And they hired Brian Stelter back, and now it's just as crazy as before. So I wish her the best. I think her intentions are good, but she will fail, I think.
Well, I think the other thing, too, with that, if we could separate ourselves from His Eminence Clooney for a second and talk about that news organization, the other piece, I agree with you. I think that's right. And the other piece of it is, really how transactional is Barry Weiss's hire at CBS News by Team Ellison, and how long will it last if there's a change in power in Washington, D.C. I mean, they have bigger financial interests that they want. And so there's definitely, it seems to me, an aspect of trying to curry favor with the regime. And if the regime changes, then who they're trying to curry favor with could change.
Yeah, man, I also think there's potentially a monetary advantage here. If you become the main broadcast news outlet that actually is fair and balanced, maybe there's a way to kind of draw people's attention to what you do. But it also is interesting that people on the left are caterwauling about this situation because they're so afraid of one major old school institution actually telling it like it is. They don't want that. They fear that. They understand what that could do. Again, I think I'm very pessimistic about it. But by the way, I met George Clooney years ago on the Perfect Storm junket, and couldn't have been nicer. A smart, interesting guy. And he was going into his trailer, and I stopped him to chat with him, which I thought was really rude of me, and it's not like me. Again, couldn't have been nicer. Was sweet and kind. Shared a cool story or two. So listen, I don't think he's a bad person, but he's so misguided and so bubbled and so absurd in this issue. He needs to kind of understand that he should absorb other influences and broaden his mind. He really should.
Yeah, he needs to get back to the George Clooney whose breakout role was on Facts of Life when he had nothing and he was nobody. And remember that George Clooney, and have a little humility about things you don't know.
You had a mullet, dude.
I know. I remember. I mean, I was very interested in all of Blair Wetzel's work at that time in my life. Yes. So anyway, speaking of Hollywood celebrities trying to make a difference, this one is sort of fascinating. I had to get your take on this big announcement. Some people may have forgotten him, but one of the godfathers of reality TV, quote unquote reality TV, right? The Hills, Spencer Pratt, this announcement.
That's why I am running for mayor. And let me be clear, this just isn't a campaign. This is a mission. And we are going to expose the system. We are going into every dark corner of LA politics and disinfecting this city with our light. And when we are done, LA is going to be camera ready again.
Were you impressed, Christian?
I think he's doing some good things on social media. I don't know what chance he has of moving forward. But listen, I give him a lot of credit, first of all, to be in that industry and to be in that climate and go against the tide and call out all the injustices. It takes some guts, and I appreciate that. And he's going to be a thorn in some people's sides. I don't know how far he goes with his campaign. But I just don't understand how people just sit there and take it, and they take it, and they take it. And he couldn't do that anymore. So, I don't understand. Gavin Newsom was exposed probably 12 years ago by Adam Carolla such a profound way. It should have ended his career. He's an empty suit. He's almost a sociopath at this point. I mean, the things he says and does and acts. And we just keep thinking, well, he's probably going to be the nominee, and he probably is for the Democrats. I mean, I don't know how we live in this world, and there are a few sane souls in Hollywood thinking, this has got to end. We've got to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, you make fun of Spencer Pratt because it's what you're supposed to do to reality TV stars, especially washed up ones. But hey, listen, you want to be on the right side of things, and you want to, as you said, take some political and professional risks. Then you have to give them credit. I would have suggested that he bring Heidi Montag with him, though, on the trail. But it's a start.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up here. Listen, Michael Rappaport, who's very interesting, as he's running for mayor in New York City, he's going to fight Mondani when the re-election comes. So interesting times we're living in, and just stay tuned. I never knew my beat would be so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's a long history of celebrity and politics intersecting, but I think if we're looking to Hollywood to save big city America, then we're in worse trouble than I thought.
We are.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we let you go, recommendations on movies and series. You're the guy who oversees all of what's going on here.
The end of Landman. This is season 2. I just think it's spectacularly entertaining. Some people have quibbles with a couple of the female characters. I don't. They added
Me neither.
Elliott. On multiple levels. No, I think they're kind of fun and interesting and different, and I love the dynamic between Billy Bob and Ali Larter on the show.
Yeah.
But also adding Sam Elliott, I mean, the gravitas he brings, the sadness as an older gentleman, it is fascinating. Last night I also saw a new movie called Primate. It is an R-rated horror movie about a chimp that goes wild. It is a pure B movie. It is entertaining. It is silly. It is over the top, and it's fun. And if that description suits your needs, go see it. It's actually the kind of movie where people are talking back in the theater. When I don't push that. But when you're watching a horror movie and someone has a funny little quip to say, sometimes it adds to the experience. So Primate is out this weekend. Again, it's not great art. It's not good art, but it's fun and it's crazy.
I didn't catch up on as many movies as I had hoped to over the holidays, but one movie that I thought was very good, it reminded me of something like Terrence Malick would have done, Tree of Life, something like that. But it's not Malick, but. And that's Train Dreams with Joel Edgerton and William H. Macy. Have you seen that? It's on Netflix.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. It's dreamy, it's quiet, it's thoughtful, it's pensive. And on Netflix now, so people can check it out immediately if they got the service.
All right, there you go. Got Christian Toto's endorsement. That's all I need. I've accomplished my goal of adding value today. Christian Toto, host of Hollywood in Toto, the Hollywood in Toto podcast, which you can find at hollywoodintoto.com. Christian, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom. Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
What if 2026 could be the best year ever for your retirement? It can when you take control of your financial future with physical precious metals. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD right now and get your free gold rollover kit valued at $49, yours just for calling. More Americans than ever are discovering the power of rolling over a portion of their IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver. With a simple, tax and penalty-free rollover, you can add stability, security, and strength to your retirement. In times of inflation, uncertainty, or market swings, gold has been a steady, tangible, proven store of value. And in 2026, it could be the key to building the retirement you've always imagined. That's why so many people trust Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America for 10 years running. Call 800-741-GOLD to get your free gold rollover kit. Call 800-741-GOLD and let 2026 be the year you finally take control. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Everybody loves the season of giving, but now the season of paying for it is upon us. That not-so-wonderful time of the year when millions of Americans open their credit card statements, stare in horror at the balance, and resolve then and there to find new ways to save money. If you're among those Americans, why not start by cutting your wireless bill in half right now with Pure Talk's Saver Plan? It's easy. You'll get unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on a super-fast, nationwide 5G network for just $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Ho, ho, ho! And if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. That's pound 250. Say Mike Rowe for the gift that keeps on saving from America's wireless company. Pure Talk.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, thanks for joining us in another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. I'm off tomorrow. Got some special guest hosts you'll be interested to listen to. So look forward to revisiting everyone on Monday and enjoy tomorrow's program and your weekend. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
A standoff on a street in Minneapolis. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Demonstrators confronting federal immigration agents the day after a shooting they call murder.
Demanding that ICE leave the city, protesting the death of Renee Good.
She was fighting for her immigrant neighbors, just as so many of us have been. And now she's gone!
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says Good attempted to ram her car into an ICE agent.
This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents.